All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:00 p.m. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Aaron Moran.
Here.
Chris Zellner.
Here.
Joe Zitzelsberger.
Here.
Kristen Runge.
Here.
Nyla Fry.
Here.
Jack Heineman.
Here.
And Sam Kaufman.
Here.
All right, we will go to next confirmation of open meeting compliance.
And I can confirm that the draft agenda and final agenda were published and officially posted on Friday, the 18th. Sorry, I don't have my paper in front of me, but Friday, the 18th, I believe.
All right. And then next up, we'll go to public comment. And then after public comment, I'll turn it over to our finance chair. Meeting public comment is allowed. We have 3 minutes for public comment and a new feature for public comment, Carla.
We do. So we're gonna put up a clock on the screen. So those that are present know how much time they have left for speaking, as well as it's just a little more transparent for every public comment and public hearing. So
How
first,
does it work for people who might be online?
they should be able to, we tested that. Yep, they'll be able to see the screen with the clock on it.
All right, thank you.
The first public comment is Robert McPherson at 1703 Alexandria Court, Waunakee.
Robert McPherson, 1703 Alexandria Court, Waunakee. I'm here tonight. Some of you may have already gotten some advance notice that I might be here tonight just because of a letter to the editor that I put in the paper. I would openly ask the board, I'm sorry for the finance committee, I forgot you guys had joined tonight, so you'll have to sit through this, but I'll openly ask the board, what is the definition of a crisis to this board? We know housing is in a crisis in Dane County. We are a part of Dane County. And, I really think as a constituent, I want to know what it means to you. There's clearly smoke. There's a fire that's there. Do you think somebody else has called the fire department, or do you run towards the smoke and make sure that the fire department's on the way over? This is the kind of basis for where I'm coming from for this, is that the school district has made it very clear that they're seeing declining enrollment. And it's really a fault of our housing policy and housing choice that's within the village. We've known this for some time now, at least I'd say, to be fair, 7 years since that report was written. Probably longer than that because previous village boards decided to create a committee that was for that. So some facts. Dane County Rural Housing Study. It says that we need to create at least 201 new units annually within the village. In 2024, per the village's own reporting, 122 units were created. We are the second most expensive municipality in greater Madison area when it comes to transportation costs. So we're already increasing burdens. We only created 46 units of housing. We only created 46 units of housing for those that are the poorest in the 60% or less restricted housing cost. That's less than half of villages similar to our size, villages and cities. And we have the highest home prices in Dane County, almost. We're just behind Middleton at this point. I guess they leapt over us in 2024. We have to really start asking our question here, which is, are we doing enough? And posit we're not. We do have a housing fund. That's not enough. That keeps some people in their housing, but that's not clearly enough. We passed an ADU ordinance. I was proud of that. It's not enough. Not nearly enough. Theoretical land trust or down payment assistance, it's not enough. Why is it not enough? Because this is all constrained by our outdated housing code. This is all constrained by what we allow to be built in this village. And until we start taking that seriously, this is going to get worse and worse. And like I said in my letter, the school district's the first to go. Everything else follows after it. It's our largest employer. We need to take this seriously. It is a crisis. Now, unfortunately, my wife is allowing me to come to these meetings for the next few months to basically say the same thing over and over. So get used to seeing my face and hearing about this topic until I start seeing some serious action from this board of writing some legislation. You have to try something. Doing nothing is not a choice in this case. You need to try something. You might fail. It's fine. Thanks.
All right, thanks for the comments, Robert. Next up.
We have no other comment cards.
All right, do we have anyone online?
Yeah, I see one online, and now would be the time to click raise hand. No.
No. All right, seeing no further comments, we will move on to the joint agenda with Finance Committee, and I'll turn it over to our Finance Chair.
Okay, I'm going to call our finance committee to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Sure. Chris Zellner,
Here?
Kristen Runge,
Here?
Jack Heineman,
Here.
Al Dasso,
Here.
Paul Cardarella,
Here.
Sarah Whitley,
Here.
and Tom Wilson.
Here.
Okay, so our first item is to discuss and take action on the Village of Waunakee budget policies. Renee?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen just to bring up oops. To bring up the draft policies. The main one to be discussed tonight is the fund balance policy. So finance, we've had a couple different meetings this year where we talked about fund balance and you know, kind of where we wanted to go with that. I also had shared with the finance committee meeting some government finance officers' best practices with regards to finance. So you may recall that our policy is to maintain an unassigned fund balance between 20 and 25% of our next year's expenditure budget. And for the past number of years, we've hovered more around 29 to 30%. And so we talked about, you know, should there be a policy or what should we do with the excess? Should we change the policy? And so the government finance officer's recommendation, I'm just going to read it quick here. If a government chooses to adopt a conservative budget estimates and assumptions that consistently result in year-end surpluses, we recommend that a clear and transparent process be adopted for how those surpluses are utilized. And that's, you know, I've tried to be more realistic, but you know, we still tend to budget conservatively because we just don't know what's all going to happen. So they say the simplest option then is to require that major one-time investments from financial reserves be considered and approved only through the regular annual budget process, which we have done in the past, and I will be presenting some of that tonight. Otherwise, developing a policy on using it only for non-recurring costs. And we have done that as well. So the changes I'm proposing, and I apologize to Al because I know he can't see the red, but they are underlined. Again, just made a couple tweaks to some of the wording to add realistic. And then in 1D, you know, generally we want to adopt a balanced budget, but we have made exceptions for paying one-time expenditures. And then I added or to provide tax relief because we have done that in the past. And then the main thing I added there was to kind of set some guidelines. So amounts in excess of 25% but below 30% would be used as outlined in 1D. Again, one-time costs or tax relief with village board approval. And then amounts 30% or greater would be transferred to the equipment replacement fund for future equipment purchases. And I arrived at that one because that's where we see the most changes in pricing, increases with all the village vehicles and equipment and things that we buy. And we're just replacing things. We're rarely buying something completely brand new. And so we have to continue with that. So I thought, again, we haven't typically been over 30%. But if we were, that's where I would recommend that we put it. But I'm open to thoughts from finance and if how you feel about that.
Perfect. So we've got response to our questions from the last meeting, some responses. We'll see what people think about those. So Tom, you had your hand.
Yeah, and I'm probably wrong, but I thought we actually looked at these and made recommendations on these to the village board. Am I wrong?
We looked at them, but then we were going to, this is when we're making
There
those
were some
recommendations.
refinements that you were gonna make for
Yeah.
us to look at this meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, the
That-
village board has not revisited the fund balance policies yet this year.
But we did.
Yes,
The
we
finance
did,
committee
yes.
did.
Yep.
And how we left it last time was, I had thought that we made recommendations on what you provided to the village board. And what I'm hearing is, no, Tom, not quite right. We looked at them, thought they were fine, but you were going to make some further
So, yeah,
refinements.
I made these tweaks.
Okay.
And now is when we would discuss those tweaks, or if we want to make further changes, and then would recommend to the village board.
Thank you.
I did rewatch the meetings because, just to try and be clear on that, so.
Comments in regards to the changes, tweaks that Renee made? Any concerns with them or anything that what people would like included?
They seem fine with me and consistent with our conversations that we had at the last finance committee meeting. So thank you, Renee.
Other comments? Thanks, Tom. Everybody's quiet.
Yeah, they
Right.
feel reasonable to me. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I feel reasonable.
Al?
I'm gonna go back to my overall issue in regards to 1A, and that is the budget request should be conservative but realistic in order to reflect a cautious approach to the next year's budget. Starting off the top of the list there, and I say, when I look at that, and I look at last year's budget, which it was expected that there would be a deficit of $1.1 million. In reality, the expectations are it's at a break even. So in 2025, based on the expected usage of the fund surplus of $1.1 million, in reality, because of the conservative budgeting, it actually turned out to be a break-even proposition for the year, which means there was $1.14 million of either additional revenue or cost savings. And when I look at that, that's 20% of the total revenue for the year. Now, is that cautious and conservative? I guess I take a little bit of a concern in looking at, when I look at the current year budget of 504,000, and Renee is going to address the expectation of how that's going to be used. But with the conservative budgeting and going a year down the road, is it going to be another over $1 million benefit someplace that pops up? So I do take a little bit of a concern when it says conservative and cautious approach, because to me, there seems to be perhaps more revenue than someplace, or less expenses someplace than we expect. And when I went through the budget for the current year, you can see kind of where the things, some of the line items, that conservativeness falls out. And I'm just a little bit concerned from my perspective on setting up a budget and approving a budget to the taxpayers that's going to perhaps understate what is a realistic budget for the year. And I say that because when I look at the changes that are to be made, so when I look at expenses, I look at the useful life of the expense. And why should a taxpayer today pay for a piece of equipment that's going to be used for the next 5 years? There's inconsistency that I got to pay for a $100,000 piece of equipment that's going to last 5 years. Well, whoever is there for the next 5 years should be paying their pro rata share of that expense. And now to use the anything in excess of 30% transferred to the equipment replacement fund for future equipment purchases, I guess to me, there's a little bit of a mismatch going on between the expense savings that was incurred today versus the expense that's going to be in the future for future generations to reap the benefit of that piece of equipment. So there's a mismatch to me in that regard. the other part is, I don't know what tax relief means, to provide tax relief. And I understand the one-time tax relief and how dangerous that can be. So I don't know what tax relief means when I see the term used in 1D. So those are my comments.
Can I address a couple of those things quick? Yeah, maybe tax relief was not the best wording to use. We'll see later how much I did use for this current year, just meaning, trying to bring the levy down for our taxpayers. I'm using some of that surplus, but again, not very much because it's not a one-time thing. So using that very cautiously. But to your point about looking at where the 2025 budget, it looks like a use of about 1.1 million. Some of that includes carryovers, basically budget amendments from the prior year. So that was not the exact amount that we adopted. But we have set aside some carryovers, which I know we've discussed that as well. That can be somewhat arbitrary as well, to maybe get to a certain fund balance. So I just don't know how to, we went back to the departments. We really try to do a realistic budget, but things just happen. And that's where then the carryovers, what didn't happen in one year gets moved to the next. And so it sort of looks like it's using more than it is.
Understand.
It's hard to.
Do you have suggestions based on your concerns?
The equipment replacement should stand on its own year by year, not a function of excess or surplus revenue or fund balance. Given the policy that's been implemented that there's already a certain amount put aside every year, and to put more into there, I just hesitate to continue to build up the equipment reserve fund, again, at the expense of the current taxpayers. I don't know what tax relief is. Let me back up. The first line, I would not be conservative. I would be realistic. I would not be cautious. Now, I know that some of the language from the government accounting board or whoever it is, but I don't know what historically has gone on either. I didn't go back to years gone by to see, is this a trend being too cautious? Or is it, and the fact we have a surplus kind of implies it is. And your comment is, if there's historical surpluses, there's got to be a clear and transparent process as to how that money's going to be used. Now, again, I know you have a slide coming up on the current year, but historically, the question is, as that surplus continues to grow, and I know we also move money to assigned surpluses. So there's a little bit of other things going on here that you need to factor in as to the financial stability of the village, which is fantastic. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The village is in terrific shape. But I think we need, from my perspective, I'd like to see perhaps a little more realistic budgeting process that goes on. So when we're here a year from now, and the expectation is we have a deficit of $500,000, and I understand budgeting is not going to be precise. But, if there's a range of some number, and I'm making numbers up, we use $750,000 or we make $250,000, maybe that's too big of a swing. But 20% of the revenue line, to me, that's just a big number. That's ultra conservative in my mind. So I just hesitate when I don't know what tax relief means, and I know the danger of giving tax relief on a one-time basis. And I would take out conservative and cautious, because from a taxpayer standpoint, when I see the budget surplus at 1.1 million and we break even, well, there's over $1 million swing that went on here. And I guess the question is, where did that $1 million swing come from? And I think you addressed some of what happened, but I just a little concerned that from a taxpayer standpoint, there seems to be a little bit too cautious and too conservative from my perspective.
Okay. Thanks, Al. Paul, any comments?
So, as you mentioned previous, is that how often does the unassigned balance go above 30%?
It has not, I don't think it has in the past 5 years. I will say, and the reason I chose 30% moving to the equipment replacement, before I got here, the previous finance director would automatically take anything over 25% and move it to capital. But that was not documented anywhere. And so I stopped doing that. And so that's why it may appear that we have these larger surpluses, because I was essentially strictly following the policy. Whereas he would take whatever dollar amount that was and he would move that to capital automatically. It was approved by the board as in the budget amendment type process, but so I'm trying to get back a little bit closer to how it was done in the past. But in terms of the most recent 5 years, it may have reached as high as 31%. Trying to find that slide. No, the past 5 years, it's been 30% or less. I think maybe in 2020, because of some of the weirdness of COVID, that we actually saved some money when programs were canceled. It might have been as high as 31%. So it doesn't happen very often.
So, and then as well as Ella's alluding to those 20% off budget, however, there were some carryovers. Is that correct?
Right. I think it was about probably at least 400,000 carryovers that then were amended into the 2025 budget. I don't have that exactly.
So in respect to that, essentially you're finding a way to have unassigned funds assigned above the 25% mark, which you're finding a good way of doing it and changing the policies. So definitely in favor of these changes, and really it's somewhat of an anomaly if it's above 30%, it sounds like. So, and it still goes back into the community. It's for something that helps the community. So.
Right. It would technically lower what we needed to levy for equipment then if we have some excess. I look at that over a 5-year period because there is a policy where we have to keep that balance above a certain dollar threshold. So we're just having more expenses than, I think it's 500,000. It's supposed to always be maintained over a 5-year period. And we're looking at equipment needs now and more in closer to 700,000 a year. So we're trying to supplement that a little bit. And we certainly don't have to take action on these policies tonight if there's interest in me doing more tweaks based on this particular conversation.
Paul, good?
Yep. Thank you.
Sarah, any comments?
I mean, I kind of agree with Al a little bit on A with having the conservative and cautious. Like, I believe like if we had budget requests could be realistic in order to reflect a cautious approach to the next year's budget. I don't know. I've been trying to strum it through my head. I understand why it reads that way, but yeah, having those two words in the line is kind of but I mean, but regarding the amounts of excess funds, I completely agree with that and everything else, but just trying to reword that 1A. I don't, yeah, can't really think of
Yeah,
a-
I was trying to work with kind of what had been in place for 20 years.
Yeah.
To make it a little bit better, but I see how that's maybe the conservative part could
And it-
easily be struck.
Yeah, and as regards to like tax relief, would that be like property tax relief?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I
think-
should have.
Yeah, be a little bit more specific.
Right,
with that
and I could
wording.
maybe say to provide one-time property tax relief.
Yeah,
Again, the village board has to approve it, so I would hope we wouldn't get too carried away with that.
So I think the way that this is written is just a little bit difficult for some people. Maybe all of us, I'm not sure. I think that what we've been doing as a finance body and the village board have been working, as Al pointed out, our financials are great. We're in very good position, very strong position. So sometimes you maybe pick a little bit too hard to get into a detail. I think that to Al's point, if we had a board that abused the system, I think that could be a problem. And who knows if that could ever happen, maybe. I don't think we've had that happen in the recent past, so, or ever to that matter, that I'm aware of. So I'm overall pretty good with this. I'm not sure we need to make wholesale changes or any significant changes to this unless somebody has a wording change that we could look at. I know there's an attorney on this group and he's probably deals, maybe he's a former attorney, I'm not sure, I guess retired, from a legal wordsmithing perspective, but I don't know that we need to do that.
I guess, just kind of following up on some of the comments that I heard, I would actually keep the conservative, but I take out the but realistic, because everything's got to be brought to the board, or these major expenditures have to be brought to the board, and the board is going to say yay or nay, if we need it, I'm assuming. So I think I think the but realistic is redundant. I favor either going to the capital or maintenance if there's an overage, because in government we tend to defer maintenance, or we push things off because we don't have the money. And if we can fix something, for $100 as opposed to deferring it, and it costs us $1,000 or $10,000, we should minimize deferred maintenance as much as possible. So I think building up those type of funds, equipment's expensive. We need it. It's always going up. It doesn't seem to go down. And if we put the money into the fund today, theoretically, those same people that are paying their taxes today are probably going to be in the village, over a period of time. Yes, you got job transfers and things like that, I realize, but the majority of the population is relatively stable. So, moving it into equipment or capital improvements or something like that, I would support.
Any other comments? Tom?
So just a couple things. On the realistic, I know why we added that, because we're always conservative and sometimes we're too conservative. So the idea was, let's try to be realistic, and just one number in here, like our investment income, you budgeted 150,000 in 2024. And we made 525. Kudos. But I mean, you're trying to be conservative, but maybe we need to be a bit more realistic in what our investment income might be. And that's just one example. And I get why that was put in, because we were concerned with being just conservative and not thinking about real life. And so, for instance, for investment income, and I got a couple bankers here, that's why I'm bringing this up. The investment income that's proposed for 2026 is 300,000. And well, we've already made in 8 months, 406 this year. So is it gonna go down? You're being conservative,
Yeah,
and it's only $100,000.
in that case, I'm more looking for the long term, because if the rates drop, then we have a huge hole to fill next year.
The rates dropping, Paul.
So I did definitely try and make it more realistic.
No, see,
Yeah.
now that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
That's why
but
they're
it's still
realistic with
somewhat
that.
conservative, because again,
It's very
we
conservative.
don't want a huge, we don't want to budget 600,000 for interest and then we go back to just a couple of years ago when we were making nothing.
So that is
So,
why
yeah.
those two words were added.
Yeah.
Just all right, we can be conservative, but let's be real about this. And so that's why they were added. I don't have any trouble with that being added. To provide tax relief is just a way for the village board, if there's excess money, figure out a way to maybe get it back to the taxpayers, whether that's we're just gonna pull it through and use it for our expenditures that we have, or maybe there's some other way you're gonna utilize it. I don't know. That's what you guys get paid the big bucks for, right? And then I really don't have any trouble with anything 30% or greater to go to the equipment replacement fund. It kind of makes a lot of sense. Whether we're gonna ever meet that, I kind of doubt it, but it makes sense to, at least you have something in there where before Dave might have just said, oh, it's over 25. Let's just stick it over here. At least there's a policy now to say where it should go. So, and I'm okay with that. Could have said something else and I probably been fine with that too. At least there's somewhere to assign it at this point. So that's what I want to add, Chris. I'm fine the way this is going, but if somebody else has some, we could say instead of conservative, could be just budget request should be realistic. I mean, that'd be fine too with me. So that's what I have to say. I'm okay with it, but if we want to tweak it some more, I'm okay with that too.
So I think we'll tweak enough that we could be back here in 2035 before we'd probably get to a policy. So I'm going to make the motion to approve the village's budget's financial policies as they've been presented tonight. Do I have a second?
Wilson will second it.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so we have a 6-1 vote tonight. Okay, thank you, everybody, for that. Next, we have discuss and take action to place on file proposed 2026 operating and capital improvement budget. Renee?
Thanks. Let me get this off the sharing. Oops.
Chris, before we move on to that, is this something that we can review periodically at the finance committee?
Yes, I think we should revisit it next, next year, not a full year from now, but when we have another finance
And
meeting.
we see how things went. Okay.
Yeah, we can see how it goes. And again, if we want to tweak the words, if we want to, it's, I think that's a great idea. And we typically have done that, but maybe not with as robust of a discussion.
Tom, just a quick question. Are you asking to review the policy?
I just think the
or
policy
are
should
we
come
just-
back once in a while, I think, to look at.
Should we do it on an annual basis?
So this
For
is
sure do it annually, but
Yeah.
we also, but it's usually not, it seems like it might be better to do it once just with finance and then, in case we want to do a deeper dive again.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay. So, obviously you all got the packet, all 248 pages of it.
Yeah.
We're not going to go through, that level of detail. Todd and I have some slides prepared. And so we'll focus on that, but, can answer any questions throughout or at the end. We have a lot of folks here to also help answer questions, including fire, EMS, department heads throughout. So we will just jump in. I guess just especially for people who might be watching this, I did want to introduce the department heads first. So, because in the past, we had them all come up to the podium and do a little spiel. But we felt that most of the major changes or initiatives are already on other slides. And a lot of us had budgets that didn't really change at all, other than salaries and benefits. So we're just going to have them be available for questions. So, but for those watching, we have Eric Plum from the library, Cindy Moseman from the senior center, Sue McDade, Parks and Recs director, Adam Kreitzman, police chief, Bill Frederick, public works, Carla Andres, clerk. We've got Lauren Freeman for the community development, myself for finance, and Jared's involved with HR and IT budgeting as well. And Todd, of course, oversees all of us and the admin department. Okay, so I think most of you are aware of the process that we follow in putting together this budget that we're presenting tonight, but for others that aren't as familiar, the departments start working on their budgets and in June, and they have about a month to go through their detailed budget and provide that to myself. I then in July kind of compile that, and from July to October, Todd and I are working with the departments and village board members as needed to kind of fine tune that. This year, when Todd and I first looked at the budget, it really was not looking great in terms of the tax rate that it was showing. So we actually went back to the department heads and asked them to just comb through, because things happen between June when they start and August, September when we were asking them to do this. Are there any other things that they see that have changed or that they could maybe cut or reduce?
We asked them to be conservative but realistic in order to reflect the conscious.
Indeed. But yeah, so we did get some, quite a bit of little, I said 1,000 here, 500 there, it all adds up. And they were great in terms of looking through that and coming up with anything that they could. Next step in the process, we just talked about those budget policies. And then we're in the midst of the budget proposal presentation. Upcoming, we have our additional or non-required public hearing on November 3rd, where we'll have another brief presentation of the budget from what has changed, maybe from tonight to that date. And we invite the public to come and make a public comment so that we have some, a couple weeks to try and incorporate anything that the board might hear at that meeting to get into the budget. Because the required public hearing is scheduled for November 17th. If people bring up something new at that point, it's a little hard to work that into the budget because we are looking to approve the budget that night to stay on track with getting the tax bills out timely. Because there's a process after that to work with the county on that. So we do invite as many as can that have input to come to that November 3rd, or reach out to me or someone and we can get that feedback. So as is typical in October, we have a number of budget unknowns. We had the interim market update this year. So the final border review was just last week. So we don't have complete, I think by now I have the complete locally assessed amounts. But we definitely don't have manufacturing. The Department of Revenue takes care of the manufacturing assessment. And I'm hopeful that we will have that by the next meeting. Sometimes that comes as late as the second week of November. So that's always tricky in making these estimates. And also we don't have any of the other taxing jurisdictions, the school district, the county, or the tech college. They're in the midst of their budget processes now. And so by the end of October, early November, we will get that. That just helps us be able to let people know what the total tax rate would be.
On the next slide, Renee's going to put this into context in terms of what an actual tax bill looks like. But I always like to spend a moment on this slide, not as much for you folks sitting at the table here, but those maybe who haven't spent time working through municipal budget process or trying to understand some of the complexities, which are very real in relation to taxation in Wisconsin. I'll only add, though, I looked at my mom's tax bill in Illinois from last year, and that is one wackadoodle place to figure out what a tax bill is all about. I'll take Wisconsin's tax bill over that one any day. And it's with all the districts and anyway. All right. First of all, the two magic numbers for a taxpayer on their tax bill is the assessed value and the tax rate. Those are the things that when you complete the calculation, spit out the number at the end, which is the tax you pay. But there is some nuance into how that number is developed. The assessed value is an exercise that we're all, as property owners in Waunakee, very used to. This year is a good case in point, as there was a reval year and our assessors came through. Every property received a letter that laid out their new value. We hire professional assessors to complete that process in accordance with state statutes. We've got a citizen-led board that reviews the role, and that also takes complaints and concerns and sort of petitions in dispute from property owners in the village. So that process takes, well, it's practically an annual year-long process that just, did it end or recently ends? And that establishes our assessed value. Property owners receive that notice. That's the number you'll see on your bill. There is also an equalized value. So what is the equalized value? A couple things to keep in mind. First of all, not every community in Dane County or the state of Wisconsin is on the same schedule to complete those revaluations. So it is guaranteed every community is going to be out of whack with one another in terms of how close the assessed value determined by our assessor is exactly to the true market value of the property. You're going to be up, down, nats. That's what that is. And you will not find identical communities. So what happens is that, I don't know how they do it, but the state themselves also pay a lot of attention to market transactions and conditions in the real estate marketplace, and establish for each taxing entity in Wisconsin a ratio that is applied to our assessed value to equalize it to all other communities and taxing jurisdictions in our state. So essentially, we all kind of feel like 100%. Now, why is that important on our tax bill? It's not important necessarily for spitting out the bottom number, the multiplication that gives you your tax amount. It's important when there are overlapping jurisdictions where each community's share needs to be fairly shared amongst the different communities. So what are we talking about? The school district, Waunakee School District, includes multiple communities, towns, a city in Middleton, a village in Waunakee. I'm probably missing some. The county, which has every town and every city and village in Dane County to reach equalization on, and the technical college. So those overlapping institutions establish a levy, the amount they need to spend, a big chunk of money, but then it's those equalized values to represent each community fairly amongst one another is how they divvy out the chunk of their levy that gets apportioned to each specific entity. Okay, so that's why equalization is important, to achieve this balance amongst all communities within those jurisdictions. How did I do on, did I do okay on that this year? Sometimes I get tongue tied on that thing. Yeah, and it's fair to say that when applying the equalized value, that can hone in on a property's fair market value a little more accurately than the current assessed value, but it's not a rock solid guarantee. And obviously, if any property owner wants to do their own research on market values in any given moment, their best way to do it is to search out sales data to establish what they believe their value is. So Renee's going to take it now to a tax bill to explain how those numbers play out within a bill.
Okay, so some of that that Todd was discussing. So the yellow box is that assessed value. And that is what the multiplication that happens between your assessed value and the tax rate is what arrives at what your tax bill is. That average assessment ratio is the ratio of the assessed value to the equalized value, as he was talking about. That's in
This
the
is last year's tax bill, by the way.
yes, this is last year's tax bill, because of course we do not have this year's yet. It might even be the year before that. We did not change this slide, but the principle is the same. So that in the reddish box, that is the ratio of our assessed value to the equalized value at that point in time. This year on our tax bills, we expect that to be close to 100% because we just had the revaluation. But then if you do the math between the yellow box and the reddish box, you get the estimated fair market value and what they would think that they could sell this home for. And so that it all shows up on the tax bill. Again, that estimated fair market value is just taking the assessment ratio times that assessed value to come up with that. Yeah, that's all I say about that. All right, so that's just to give some background information. Now we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty of where we're at with the budget. So both the assessed tax rate and the equalized tax rate are decreasing fairly substantially when you just look at the numbers. But that is, again, primarily the result of our interim market update or the revaluation. So as values for the entire village go up, that naturally causes the tax rate to decrease. So again, that average, well, we'll see on the next slide a little bit about the average values. But again, this is just the village's share of the tax bill, about 27% of the tax bill. Yeah, so I know we got a lot of calls. Carla got more of the calls that when people got their assessments, they were worried their they were kind of applying their new assessment to the old tax rate and thinking their property taxes were going to go up, 30% or something like that. But this natural decreasing of the rate because of that, tempers that. So I think once we explained it to people, they weren't quite as alarmed. But we'll see what it looks like for the tax bills themselves here on the next slide. So we have 2024 listed and 2025. So for the $100,000 assessed value, and the $400,000 assessed value, we backed into what it would have been in 2024. So applying that 24%, or if you take the 2024 number and apply the 24% increase, we're trying to get sort of a more realistic comparison there versus if you did 2024 with 100,000 versus 2025, 100,000. But I'm just going to jump down to the average village home value. So last year, that average village home value was about 481,000 for a village tax of 2,490. Again, this is my current estimate of what the average home value is for 2025. By the next meeting, I should have that narrowed down, but we're looking at 597,000 for the average village home. And the village taxes on that would be $2,592. So an increase on that average home of $102 for the village share, which is about 4%. Now we'll talk about some of the things that are driving the increase. The general fund houses most of the expenditures of the village. Public works, police, admin, finance. The only things that departments that aren't in there are the senior center and Parks and Rec and Village Center. They have their own funds beyond the general fund, but we're looking at ongoing cost increases in the general fund of about 732,000. That is due to our proposed cost of living increase, the steps that people may be advancing on the pay scale, the health insurance increases that we've talked about at a previous meeting, our IT contract increases, a fire and EMS, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and some of the new positions that the departments had proposed. So those we consider all ongoing costs that would be here year after year. Then we also carved out some one-time costs and the use of some of our fund balance, which we'll get to on another slide. So again, the general fund going up 6.21%. Our 5-year average has been around 7%. So pretty big numbers that we're dealing with this year, but we'll get into some of those next. So a couple of the significant items that we wanted to point out, fire district, the village's share, and again, both fire and EMS are all part of the general fund. Our total amount that's in our budget is $843,854. We're 72% of the whole fire district budget. That's a 5% increase over the prior year, or about $42,300. EMS, our total share in our 26 budget is $885,150. We're just about 68% of that budget. That is an increase of 11%, or $88,000. We have separate agenda items to talk about fire and EMS because the village board needs to formally approve those budgets. And this year we kind of moved those to their own agenda items. So you can have any of your questions for fire and EMS when we get to that point. New positions, we'll talk about those in more detail on an upcoming slide, but that's just under 300,000 that we're proposing to add for this budget. Those bottom two bullet points. So you may remember back in 2023, there was an Act 12 where the legislature finally passed a way for us to increase our shared revenue, and they also established supplemental shared revenue. So the supplemental shared revenue can only be used for public safety, which also includes public works functions. It's based on the sales tax And as the sales tax increases, we get a bump in our shared revenue. But you can see for 2026, our bump is $4,900 for the traditional shared revenue and just under $13,000 for the supplemental shared revenue. So that's additional aid revenue that we will get in 2026. Not a whole lot, but it's certainly better than historically those numbers had been decreasing. So I'd rather see a small increase than for it to continue to decrease as it had been.
It's probably worth not ignoring the fact that last year, communities in Wisconsin benefited from a significant change in the way in which shared revenue is calculated and established across the state. And the village, along with most all other communities, felt a very healthy bump. And I think it's worth noting that to look at this in almost like a package deal for the 2-year biennium is fair to the state to make mention of that.
Thanks, Todd. Some other significant items that have already been through the village board processes and have been approved that also contributed to the additions to the budget. We had proposed a 1-year extension for our IT managed services. I think that was a couple months ago. That's about $59,000 that went into the budget. Previously, the board had approved adding an additional school resource officer. And so while the salary and benefit impact is $120,000 or so, there is an offset of revenue coming from the school district of about $47,000 to help pay for that when that goes into effect January 1st. In addition, the police department, they had to give notice for their previous records management consortium by June 30th. So that came to the board to make that change. And that added just under $25,000 to make that change. And then health insurance, we went through the renewal. I don't remember if it was just the last meeting or a pretty recent meeting where we had seen very high increases to our premiums. That is adding $119,000 to our budget. So the biggest part of that general fund budget, about 60%, and 35% of all of our budget together, including capital, is staffing. So both wages and benefits. So when we look at trying to control some of our costs, it's difficult because there's only so much that is outside of staffing that we can work with. But this budget is proposing a cost of living increase of 3% at January 1st, 2026. And we did look at our peers, particularly in Dane County, where we compete for employees. And so, it ranged between, I'd say 2.5% up to 4%. So we were kind of in the middle with this proposal. That would be a $207,000 increase, totaling up all of our staff. The police union contract is not settled yet for 2026, but I understand that perhaps next week they are going to be voting on that contract. So hopefully we might know more by the time either the next meeting when we talk about the budget or the final meeting. Hopefully we have some numbers on that. Usually I've just kind of shown, what a half a percent wage change up or down would be about 39,000 levy impact. 39,000, if I didn't say that right, or $8 on the average home. And then the 5-year history of our cost of living increases, we've really been right around that 3% over that period of time. And again, just another note on the health insurance increase, but I wanted to add We are in open enrollment right now, and so we will take that into consideration on our next budget presentation in case anybody changes plans. We have very high utilization of our health insurance, so even one person leaving the plan or taking on our family reimbursement account program can make a fairly big difference. So we're hoping that maybe we can gain some or reduce our expenditures during open enrollment.
I'll give Renee a little breather now and chat about, Joe, did you have a question? Or, okay. So you can take a little breath, have a drink. I'm gonna just chat about the positions that are proposed in the budget. Hopefully you saw in your packet of materials, you found the justification memos that every department, when requesting positions, is asked to assemble to justify their request. I have a hard time suggesting that any of those requested are unjustified. Obviously, we do, in administration, we do take sort of a 5-year look at staffing for the organization. And I guarantee you that there are departments, including my own, that are wishing that we could bring forward more staff support from you for the upcoming budget. But that just isn't a reality to have the budget in front of you that we're hoping to show you. But the positions that are included include a fleet maintenance technician in the Public Works Department. That the initial proposal for all 4 positions here is a 1/1 start date. More from a reasonableness perspective, if a budget is done by the end of November, it's probably reasonably going to take a couple months to succeed at filling the position completely. So we put that in the budget as a 2/1 hire. Bill in his department under buildings and facilities, and this shouldn't be a surprise because when we hired Jeff Witt as our new building and facility manager, which is a new division under Public Works, we're expecting that it was, we're going to give him a year to get settled, and he and his team are going to be prepared to come forward to share with us how best to be successful in managing and caring for our facilities for the long haul. One of those tasks means some additional professional staff in assisting and leading that function. The request was made for a 1/1 hire for that position. They would love that. I'm proposing a mid-year hire, July 1. There's 2 other positions, a library assistant, and then half FTE. It increased to a recreation assistant position. Those are lesser in the big picture, but certainly not lesser in terms of the impact that the departments will feel in getting those approved. The one reminder I will always give if we're approving any position, not 1/1, anywhere in the mid of the year, we are making a decision for the 2027 budget at the moment you make that decision, because you will automatically feel the full weight of that position budgetarily a year from now as we're having these discussions. So one of those, a couple slides ago, remember she showed the things that are not unnegotiable or already done, finished. This creates that scenario as we look at the future years. So that's just a good reminder. One position administration wished for, actually, I would say the organization wished for, is filling the vacancy left by Kylie West's promotion to the community development specialist role that she's in now. She was the executive assistant serving both administration and the community development department. That's vacant. We proposed, was that in the packet, the proposal for that, or no? We had proposed and wrote a justification to fill the position, but modify it to be a position that has extra focus on HR matters. Just like an organization, if we build more streets, we need to hire more crew members to plow those streets and care for the streets. As we grow as an organization and staff, we need more staff to care for the staff. On top of that, labor laws that are constantly in flux and other things that are complicated about running an organization of our size. We've decided to remove that from the 2026 budget proposal. It is a very much a financial decision and a difficult one. If we shook the couch cushions and found some change, first I'd like to reinstate the $5,000 that each department was able to find in savings. And if we had more left over from the cushions, I'd be talking seriously about this. But I will share that this is sort of interrelating to another item on the village board's agenda, and that's a discussion about our insurance carriers and eyes wide open to resources that could help our HR function do the best that they can with the resource limitations that they face, is related to staff's recommendation to switch to CIVMIC. And that relates to the robustness in their training program delivery and the provision of on-staff people as part of the CIVMIC team who specifically serve as HR support to their member communities. Before I jump into proposing a future FTE in charge of HR, assuming you approve the switch to CIVMIC, I would really like to see how well our team does, our HR team does in taking advantage of and pursuing the use of those CIVMIC offered programs related to HR. So that's some of the stuff that's rolling around in the brain here. So that's the staffing request summary.
Thanks, Todd. So kind of revisiting the discussion we had a few minutes ago about the unassigned fund balance. So essentially we kept that overarching policy the same, maintaining it between 20 and 25%. So just again, showing some of the history. Again, we've been right around 29 to 30% over the past number of years. But we'll talk about on the next slide how we plan to use some of that unassigned to help reduce the tax levy in this budget. So the top one there, so this is different than what we were talking about, that the over 31% of the fund balance would go to equipment replacement. This is taking some of the current fund balance and enhancing equipment replacement. As I mentioned, historically, the policy is to maintain 500,000 in that equipment replacement fund to fund the next year's budget. But we're getting to the point where our equipment needs are 600, 700,000 in a year. So rather than increase the tax levy to try and get there, to pay for all that replacement. We did this last year as well. We're planning to move 100,000 over there to fund the 2026 replacements. So yes, so that's just to try and meet the equipment replacement needs without having to add that to the levy. The next couple are some use of the assigned fund balance and carryovers that we touched on briefly, particularly the second bullet point there, the retirees, that refers to the sick leave conversion that our certain retirees receive upon retirement. So we have money set aside for when those people retire, and we have an estimate of what that's going to be. So we would use some of that assigned fund balance for those purposes. Also, we still had, so we had renewed our assessment contract. It's a little bit different where it's smooth over 5 years. So we still had a little of our old assigned fund balance that we can help offset that increase that we had for that. And then elections, next year is potential for 4 elections, I believe. And so we try and budget smoothly for elections. And then when we have it's not a presidential year, but the midterms are definitely more work. So we're going to use a little bit of that election carryover in this 2026 budget. And then there was a few other things that we think will be carried over at the end of 2025 that were not able to be fully completed in 2025 for some ordinance work and marketing work. So we would use that toward the 2026 budget. And then planned use of some of our joint venture stabilization. That is a fund that we've had for a few years, just to try and ease in some of the fire and EMS increases that we're seeing. So we'd use a little bit of fund balance for that. And then I combed everybody's individual budgets, trying to look for one-time costs that we could use fund balance for and not have to worry about filling a hole next year. And so there's a little list of them there, about 137,000 we came up with to strategically use fund balance. Here's the next one that we talked a little bit about, the property tax relief. So I am proposing using 75,000 of our fund balance just to reduce the tax rate and ease the burden on our citizens. Again, I felt pretty comfortable with that number. We have used a little bit more than that in some other years. Again, just trying to achieve a reasonable increase for citizens. So that all totals up to be about 504,000. And then the projected fund balance at the end of 2026 still would be at 27%. Again, those are pretty broad estimates, but we'd still be probably at or above our policy. A couple other things to note. So the Todd talked about the equalized value. So the village's equalized value grew at 8.65% in 2025. And so it's a little higher than last year. But I was surprised when I calculated or looked this up today. Dane County as a whole went up 9.15%. So there's definitely other communities growing even faster than us in terms of our equalized value. But again, we're one of the stronger ones in Dane County. The 5-year average of that growth is 11%. And what that helps us out with is our debt capacity. So as the equalized value grows, so does our debt capacity because we're able to borrow 5% of our total equalized value. So if we needed it, we have that capacity, and we'll see a little bit more about the debt service on the next slide. And then a couple other things to note there. So we talk about the levy limits, so our net new construction was 3.206% for 2025. So that allows us to increase our levy about 385,000 within our approved levy limit. So, but of course, we saw on a previous slide, our total expenditure increase was, close to 900,000. So it doesn't, the net new construction doesn't quite keep up with inflation and everything that we have to add as a growing community. The last bullet point on there is we closed TID 4. And so as part of that, you get to bring 50% of the value, 50% of the value. It helps to increase your levy limit. That was a very small TID, so it was only a small bump of 18,600. That was. Just talking a little bit more about levy limits, we had the presentation to the finance committee, and some of you maybe have watched it online, but with our 10-year financial management plan, and they talked about where we were in the limits. And so the 2026 budget that's proposed is very consistent to what was in that estimate at that time. And so we're still looking at 2028 being projected to be the year where we not either need to start borrowing more of our capital costs to reduce the levy, or find other revenue sources, or cut back on some expenditures. So that presentation that we had, we're still consistent with that. And we'll keep updating that annually as we have been, just to keep an eye on that. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. So debt service, this is really kind of with our policies, it's become more of a non-issue. A number of years ago, particularly when we were going to build the library, we were bumping up against our internal policy of remaining below 50% of the debt limit. But now with the way equalized values have grown and our debt, we really try and keep pretty consistent. That's kind of that reddish, purplish, magenta one at the bottom there. You can see the debt we're projected to be pretty consistent, whereas the next color above it, the greenish or teal, as Todd would say, that's where our internal village limit is, and then the top bluish purple is what actually the state would allow us in terms of our debt limit. So
Periwinkle.
periwinkle. I should have confirmed the colors beforehand. And poor Al, he's just seeing different shades of gray. So again, we're well below our internal limits, and same with the bottom two. Again, our debt is growing at a much slower pace than either the entire village expenditure budget or the equalized values. So again, our policies are serving us well, but we just don't need to be concerned with them too much at this time. So then talking a little bit now about equipment replacement and capital. The full details, the line item details were in the packet. I've just kind of summarized it here in terms of the next 5 years and the different what we call functions of government. Just so people are aware, the Health and Human Services, that is, in our case, that is the senior center. And then the Culture, Education, and Recreation is primarily parks and the library. So that's where their, what the function is, where their expenses go. So looking ahead at 2026, I just wanted to point out that the public safety line, which is a little higher, it's the highest year, 2026. That includes the fire building exhaust system, engine exhaust system. So we put in as that was one of McMahon's recommendations, and so that is in the 2026 budget. Public Works is a little bit higher there too, because we had shuffled some equipment around. So we've got kind of 2 dump trucks, I think, happening in the same, and right, COVID delays in getting things. So yeah. But again, this plan, we update it every year, but we try and look out, we actually look out 10 years, but just 5 years on this summary here. And so we'll see how that fits into the overall capital plan, which includes the capital improvement. Again, the details were in the packet. The reason I show 2 years is because the borrowing that we will do in early 2026 will be borrowing for both the 26 projects and the 27 projects. So to save money, we have been borrowing every other year to save some of the issuance costs. So what I wanted to say on this one, street improvements is higher in 2026 because that includes, I believe it's $2 million for the Hogan Road Highway 19 improvements there, our share. And we will see on the next slide kind of a little easier detail on what we will need to borrow. We've got, again, that street improvements, which includes Hogan Road, Highway 19, the police department addition. And so what that is are some things that when we did the 2024 borrowing, we didn't have the full costs. It hadn't been bid out for the police department addition. So this includes some of the solar panels, particularly that the board approved. We're not in that original borrowing. It's some of the appliances and a few other things. So this is kind of to catch up on everything else we would need. The big ticket item in 2027, we talked about at a recent board meeting, which would be the Public Works Building Addition estimates. So that would all be part of our 2026 borrowing.
I got a question.
Yes.
Street improvements, we're at 3.6 million, 2027, we're at 2.1. You had indicated, I believe I heard you say about $2 million to the Hogan Road for 2026.
It's actually 1.5 million. I forgot we did reduce it when we got better estimates from the DOT. So the 2.1 is the consistent number over.
Okay.
That we have been, yeah, I misspoke on that. 1.5 for Hogan Road.
I was just curious if we were reducing 2026 for the entire village, if we're maintaining 2.1 million, you know, what does that do for our streets? But you answered the question.
Bill, do you want to talk about how you guys go about allocating? Let me
Actually, I
go
think
back.
That 1.1 is borrowed, and then we also got one from taxes, correct?
Yes.
So that's where we get to our 2.
Okay.
So then,
So 2.1 is going to be consistent between 26 and 27.
correct.
Okay. That's the question. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. I misunderstood that. Thank you, Bill. All right. So in this budget process this fall, we aren't actually approving the borrowing. So this is estimated. If we get better estimates before we have to do the borrowing, it's usually around April. You know, that will come forward to the board for approval of the final borrowing amounts.
I'd like to share a perspective on the village's tax rate as we look at all Dane County cities and villages. The rate that we use to sort this from highest to lowest is the equalized tax rate. And the reason we do that goes back to my earlier discussion about exactly why do you do equalization. It just affords a better, more realistic comparison between communities within the county. So I see no reason to believe that our budget that we're approving this year is going to take us above where we've been rather consistently, and that's within the bottom third in terms of equalized tax rate throughout the county. And if you can probably barely see it, but last year our equalized rate was 4.575. With a budget that's in front of you tonight, the proposed equalized rate drops to 4.345. So I certainly think we'll remain in that bottom third, if not find ourselves in the bottom quartile.
Thanks, Todd. So we're getting close to the end of the prepared slides and ready to open up for questions soon, but I did want to thank my department staff, and of course, all the department heads and Todd and the whole management team, and Krista met with us as well to help us put this together for this preliminary meeting. So thanks to everyone there.
Not to forget our finance director. This our budgeting is more complex by the month. It feels like, and our budget isn't different, especially as it's gaining in size and complexity. So thank you, Renee.
Thank you. So now we're going to open it up to the full board and the finance committee for any questions to any of the staff or myself or Todd or whoever might be able to answer them. Just a reminder of the rule of thumb: for every $10,000 change up or down in the levy, it'd be about 0.03 change in the tax rate, 0.06 change over the prior year rate, or a $2 change for the average home. So yeah, open it up. I guess Chris is still kind of,
So why don't I start? I'll go through the finance question people, and then Kristen, you can take over with the board.
Sounds good.
Al?
Sure. Thank you, Renee, and Todd. And I would like to certainly applaud both of you for keeping the village in the terrific financial shape it's in. Just one comment, and that is, it looks to me like the equipment replacement should be going up to 700,000 per year based on your slide. I know you're dipping 100,000 into that for the budget surplus, but from what I can see based on your slide, we probably need to increase the equipment to replace into $700,000.
and that is my goal over, I've been trying to add a little bit to the levy each year to get up there, but not quite there yet.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Tom?
Okay, so again, great job by all. Thank you very much. And a nice, long, detailed, fine point presentation. Thank you very much for that. And I don't really have any questions on this. I think it was all well presented and self-explanatory. And, you know, in my opinion, it's certainly ready to move forward to public hearing. But the question I have is, and it kind of goes back to the last item number 2 that was on our agenda. What you have here for our finance committee is you say that our motion is to direct staff. Isn't that the village?
Sorry,
board?
when we get to that slide, see, I've changed it. Oops.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yes.
So what we want to do is
Yeah.
we want to make a recommendation to the village board to move forward with this.
Yep.
And then they have to discuss whether they want to move forward with it to public hearing, essentially.
Correct. So I did alter that slide today as I realized that that was an incorrect
Well,
motion. So
there
thanks,
you go,
Tom.
but we were ready. So, and it kind of goes back to the last one on the policies. You know, we made a motion, the village board did not make a motion to adopt those policies. So I don't know if that's something you wanted to do today.
Usually that has gone on the next meeting or the
Okay.
following meeting for
Okay,
the
so
village
that's what will
board.
happen. So they have our
Yeah.
recommendation. They'll look at that later. But for tonight, you want the finance committee to make a recommendation to go to public hearing to the village board to approve it to go to public hearing, correct? Okay. That was all I had.
Thanks, Tom. Sarah?
No, I think everything looks great and is great presented, and all numbers look good to me.
Paul?
Just want to say thank you for putting together this PowerPoint. Very detailed, very evident, and grateful to be in the lower quartile for the tax comparison. Doing a great job in managing the finances for the village. So thank you.
Kristen?
Oh, yeah, thank you very much for all of the work. When we met about this, just the enormity of the task is incredible, and it amazes me every year that you pull this all together, and the presentation is clear and understandable and logical. So thank you all for the work that went into it, everyone that contributed.
Jack?
Thank you for all the work and support. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Well, I think you're all lazy. but I'm kidding, of course. No, thank you, everybody. The fact that department heads are all here means you care about this immensely, and the amount of time and effort. I've been doing this for a long time, and you can't even appreciate how much goes into the thought and difficulty in putting together this budget. So thank you to all who are here tonight. For those in the crowd that may not be board members or department heads, thank you for being here as well. I'll turn it back over to you, Kristen.
All right,
I think we need a motion, which I'll make.
Yeah.
I make a motion to recommend to the village board to direct staff to publish a notice as required by state statute that indicates that the proposed budget is available for public review and schedule the public hearing for November 17, 2025. That's my motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
One
then-
more comment. The village board should receive some compliments too. I mean, you put the staff in place, you put the team together, you put them in position to succeed. And I think you've done a great job in all that. So thank you as a village resident. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. So I think we need to close out our meeting.
Yeah, I think the finance committee could adjourn and then the rest of the village board could have any further discussion and before they make their motion.
Motion to approve or adjourn the finance committee.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
So back to village board then. So village board, we've just seen a fantastic presentation, and what questions do we have? Erin, can I start with you?
Yes, I don't have any questions. Just reiterate the thanks that everyone has, but Renee, you're brilliant, and how you do this just amazes me and inspires me, and you make it seem so graceful. And to all of our team for being here and working through this process. I think the positions proposed are definitely appropriate, and I hope that they can improve the staff's work experience as we, grow, making sure we can maintain our facilities and our teams and make sure people are, that we remain an employer of choice because people are having an appropriate workload. So.
Thank you, Erin. And with that finance committee, I'm sorry, you are free to leave if you would like to leave, or we enjoy your company. So you are welcome to stay if you'd like to stay as well. So thank you very, very much for being here tonight. So
Thank you.
we'd like to keep you guys around. You're fun to hang out with. So.
That's true.
All right. All right.
Maybe we'll shift let's just wrap up.
But the questions, yeah. Yeah, and Chris, in your capacity, I'm just going to go down the line and give everyone the opportunity again. Chris, in your capacity as trustee, do you have any additional questions?
No, I think that the recommendations made by Renee and staff are all appropriate. I think to the term that we were debating before, conservative as well. So yeah, I'm in full support of where the budget's at currently. I would still like to see some potential for us to help our taxpayers out a little bit more.
All right. Joe.
I'll reiterate the same thing everyone else has. It's always amazing the amount of work that goes into this, and then how you can package it up into something that is understandable and can actually be presented in a reasonable time. So that's fantastic. The only real comment that I've got, if we can go back to the application of fund balance slide, it looks like 112. What I'd kind of like to see in relation to this, if we're still projected to end 2026 at 27%, that's a good place to be. I'd like to see that a little bit lower yet. Now, exactly how we get there, I'll leave that up to your expertise, but that's where I would like to see us go. Other than that, I think everything looks fantastic.
Thank you, Joe. Nyla.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to the first year I was on the board when it came to budget time. And I remember leaning over to Chris after we finished the meeting and I said, good budget, Chris. I don't know how you did it. And he said, it's the work of the village board all year long, along with staff. So thank you, staff. Thank you, board. And it's been a learning process. So I hope all of you who sat through this meeting, it was a learning process for you. Thanks.
All right, Jack.
Just thanks, everybody, for the work that you've done. Department heads, thanks for showing up and being available at all times for questions, not only during the period. Appreciate it.
All right, Sam.
No questions, as always. Thank you, and we are blessed that unlike many of our peer communities, this is not a dragged out budget process with amendments where we're here till 2 o'clock in the morning. So thank you.
It's well organized that way. Yet?
Yet.
Yeah, do you have
We have,
plans?
no, but we do have 2 more meetings yet, so.
We do, yeah.
We'll hope,
do.
That'd be other issue.
yeah, I will hope that you are accurate.
All right, Renee, would you mind putting the motion back up on the, oh, it is, look at that. So do we have a recommendation then?
Make the recommendation as presented.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
And then we'll just do a quick shift
Yeah.
over for you guys.
Do we want to take a quick break?
Yes.
5-minute
Yeah.
recess?
Yeah, 5-minute recess.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we are back from our recess. So next item on the agenda is consent agenda. And I'd like to pull item number 4, if that's all right. Do we have anything else we'd like pulled?
Move
from-
approval of the remainder.
All right,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so now that I've pulled it, I'm realizing I'm not in the correct place in my agenda. So give me a moment here while I find the proper page.
168.
Thank you, Sam. So, November is coming up. And thank you very much. And, thank you, it is. Yeah, thank you very much. So November is coming up, and as is our cherished tradition, we're contemplating flying the Ho-Chunk Nation flag above Village Hall during November of 2025 in recognition of Native American Heritage Months. The request is in compliance with our commemorative flag policy, which is attached in the agenda. But before we go ahead and read the resolution, resolution, I think I'd like to invite the board to make comments and or a motion on this item. So does anybody have anything that they would like to add to what I will read as a result of this? No, none? Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
All right.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. And then I'll read the following as background information. What started at the turn of the century is an effort to gain a day of recognition for the significant contributions of the first Americans made to the establishment and growth of the United States has resulted in a whole month being designated for that purpose. One of the very proponents of an American Indian Day was Dr. Arthur C. Parker, a Seneca Indian who is the director of the Museum of Arts and Science in Rochester, New York. He persuaded the Boy Scouts of America to set aside a day for the first Americans, and for 3 years they adopted such a day. In 1915, the annual Congress of the American Indian Association meeting in Lawrence, Kansas, formally approved a plan concerning American Indian Day. It directed its president, the Reverend Sherman Coolidge, an Arapaho, to call upon the country to observe such a day. Coolidge issued the proclamation on September 28, 1915, which declared the second Saturday of each May as an American Indian Day and contained the first formal appeal. So it goes on in our packet to say, give a history of it. But the part I want to focus on, and we will read this again in November in honor of Native American History Month, is this on the second page. So the flying of the Ho-Chunk flag is an act showing awareness of this land that we occupy now, that we live on now, as the ancestral territory of the Ho-Chunk people. And on September 20th of 2021, the village board approved a land acknowledgement that reads as follows. The village of Waunakee acknowledges that the land we occupy is Tehope, the ancestral territory of the Ho-Chunk Nation, people of the sacred voice. The Ho-Chunk are stewards of these lands and waters since time immemorial. Settlers attempted to forcibly remove them from their homelands by exploiting a series of land secessions and treaties, including the Treaty of 1832. However, the Ho-Chunk resisted these conquests and asserted their sovereignty as a nation. We address this trend of dispossession by upholding the Ho-Chunk way of life, sovereignty, culture, language, and environmental practices, and acknowledging the atrocities is only our first step towards reconciliation. Through relationship building, education, and action, the village will advocate for a shared future with the Ho-Chunk Nation. So usually the morning of November 1st, we raise the Ho-Chunk flag outside Village Hall, and we look forward to doing that again this month. So thank you all for the support of this. Right, next on to reports and announcements. The Community Development Authority is going to be meeting this Thursday. A number of us attended the Community Land Trust meeting, the Midwest Community Land Trust meeting in Madison a couple of weeks ago, and so we'll be discussing that. We'll also be discussing a couple of other items, including a down payment assistance program or potential down payment assistance program. EMS Commission.
Nothing particular other than we're going to be discussing the budget later in this meeting.
All right. Plan Commission did not meet this month. Joint Plan Commission did meet and approved I'm getting the term incorrect. I'm getting the term correct. Approved a well. Police Committee.
Met last week, basically just went through the department update. A couple of things that I will note. We're currently down 2 officers, but there's a new candidate that's starting the academy in January, and there's open hiring for another position. And let's see, building construction has moved on to phase 2, And the record management system, which was mentioned in the budget stuff as well, is planned to switch over the first week of January.
Excellent. Board of Review.
I was just going to give our update, but you already heard that we've had our final meeting as of last week. So that's all I had to report.
Excellent. Thank you. Library Board.
Main thing we did was we reviewed our room rental fees, which have only increased once since the building opened. And they were priced significantly below market, and the structure will be significantly simplified from what it has been in the past.
All right. Excellent. And other boards, committees and commissions. And Nyla, I believe you have a report from sustainability.
Yes, we had the sustainability fair. It was very well attended and the attendees were engaged. The exhibitors were wonderful, and I would like to thank all those who participated as well as those who attended. Thank you.
Thank you. And although we don't have a fire committee report, the pancake breakfast was held and it was successful. Do you have any estimate on number of attendees? 1,200. Wow. It's fantastic. It's a lot of pancakes and they were delicious. Any other announcements?
Did anybody have any questions about the finance committee from tonight? Okay,
No.
we're good.
All right. All right. With that, we'll move on to business item number 1, discuss and take action on proposals for liability, workers' comp, crime, property insurance services. And that I'm going to guess is to you, Todd.
Yep. Starting on page, let's see, 180 of your packet is a summary memo. And more importantly, included in your packets are complete proposals and member service descriptions for both League Mutual, who are here to present, and CIVMIC, who are here to present. So I wanted to make sure that you had the entirety of those proposals in front of you for one really important reason, and that's it's really difficult to compare insurance programs. I will start by saying both CIVMIC and the League provide a great insurance product for municipalities and villages in our state. I've had the privilege of working in communities that have been served by both. So, and I honestly have nothing bad to say about either. It had been, well, I don't know it was probably about 13 or 14 years ago when the village last went out for bid for these services. So that was the thoughtful decision you made half a year ago or so now to direct staff to solicit the proposals from these two firms, and they're the right ones to get proposals from. Because of the difference between policies, the task upon village staff is sort of extra complicated than most reviews of let's say a bid for a dump truck. You know, you're talking about the same chassis, you're talking about this and that, and it's just a different vendor. This is a different situation, and there's different parameters in terms of policy coverages, premiums paid, retentions, and so on, along with intricacies of their programs that they each deliver. So this is a tough task, but I did summarize them in this memo. I'll just kind of briefly touch on what's of note from staff's perspective for the two proposals. And then I've asked each to give a 10-minute presentation on their proposal to the board, so you're familiar with them face to face, as well as gives them a chance to give you some additional context to their proposal. The League's program, by the way, LWMMI stands for the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Mutual Insurance. We've been with the League for, well, as long as I've been here, so 15 plus years. Do you have a date, guys, on exactly how long? Yeah. Yeah, and I will say very clearly and confidently that we have been insured well, and we've been cared for well by the League's program. Their one unique element to their program that isn't offered through CIVMIC, which would be a matter of policy change for the village, is the approach to sewer backup liability. So it's called no fault coverage. If there's a sewer backup that happens for, act of God, unexpected, unexplainable reasons, that's the no fault aspect, that this allows us to cover those claims. The village and utilities have carried this policy, I don't know for how long, at least again, as long as I've been here, if not longer. What I want to share, and I summarized here, is that in the past 10 years, we've paid about $245,000 in premiums for that coverage. We've paid $36,000 in claims, and our highest single year was 15. I would argue that for a community of our size, there's a better approach if the utilities / village wish to find a way to afford covering claims when the village isn't at fault, which would be a task, policy discussion then for utilities or the village. Whether we're with the league or not, I would be making this recommendation to you. To me, the numbers are exceptionally clear. The other unique element to the league's program is its first dollar coverage, meaning we don't pay deductibles on those claims. The other nice thing about the league's program is the claims management, which is relatively simple for us. We collect information from a claimant and we simply send it to them, and they work the whole process of evaluating and negotiating, even having discussions with the claimant to come to settlement or a process for denial, which then comes before the village board to formally do. It's rare that we bring forward a denial of claim, maybe once a year,
Yeah, just not very often.
yeah, not too often. So those are a couple unique and key points I want to make regarding the league's program. The CIVMIC program also is different in that the first dollar coverage isn't an offering. They have what's called an SIR, or a self-insured retention. That means for every claim, we are on the hook for $25,000 per claim up to an annual max of $100,000, after which it's full coverage. So that's important to mention as a notable difference. And obviously if we do go ahead with CIVMIC for coverage, the recommendation and the budgeted approach already included in the proposed 2026 budget is essentially to start to self-fund our own insurance fund for coverage of claims like this. For a lot of reasons you heard about earlier, we're a fortunate village in terms of funds that we do have on hand to take unique approaches to service delivery. In this case, I think we have an opportunity to take a unique approach to claims cost coverage. So we would recommend that process, which we described here, and how we would support covering the potential occurrence. I would note that on average occurrence total is about $18,500 in annual claims. We've had higher years, much higher years, and we've had very lean years too. I already talked about the no-fault coverage. I referenced the alternative approach that we could consider going forward. The other thing, and probably, and I referenced this earlier as I talked about how to best support the functions of HR within our department, within our very lean department. You're kind of looking at the tag team of HR staffing here. Jared, as a deputy administrator, oversees functions of IT and HR. We will tag team, or he with Lauren, and department heads will tag team. We have had the ability to call on legal support from the league when it's gotten to that level. We also do rely on our own labor legal when we hit complex labor matters regarding employee performance or what have you. Knowledge and understanding of the CIVMIC resources that are there to help our HR function simply are a different level of support. It's really a different approach, a different product approach to delivering support to the communities. In Waunakee's case, due to our size and the nature of our organization and our staffing and approach to HR, from an administrative perspective, I see CIVMIC's products supporting us in a way that we need more of. And that's one of the big reasons. If our proposal is apples to apples, if we're dollar for dollar identical from the league and CIVMIC, I would be making this recommendation for that reason to switch to CIVMIC. But in addition to that, the dollars support our recommendation. I summarized the differences in my memo, and with our budget being one where we've asked staff to, find 3,000 here or 5,000 there, and asking serious staffing proposals to be reduced or eliminated, every dollar is counting more than it has. And Renee and I have felt that this year more than any other in recent history. So the financial impact also supports CIVMIC as the selection. Again, all that said, I want the league representatives here to know that I have nothing bad to say, and I would recommend the league to any community in the state. With that said, there's other options. That's what we evaluated super carefully. And despite the long relationship and I know these guys, I've known Matt for quite a while, and I respect them a lot. And I thank them for what they do in the state for so many of Wisconsin's communities. So this is not an easy recommendation, but it's an important one, and I think it's the one that serves our organization the best. Renee, what do you want to share or add or?
No, I think that you summed it up well, but yeah, I've been handling the insurance here for the village since Julie Helt retired, so maybe 6 years, and have just had great experience with them. But again, we tried our best to evaluate both proposals and get as close to apples as we could to make it fair for both parties.
We're happy to take questions, but maybe best now would be to give the league their 10 minutes to present, and then CIVMIC 10 minutes, hopefully some Q&A after each for the board to evaluate their proposals.
Yeah, and in advance, thank you all for being here during we think it's an exciting finance committee meeting because it's interesting to us, but if you're outside of it, perhaps not. So thank you for your patience. I'd like to invite you to take the podium and make the presentation then. Yeah.
People would argue that this is the most boring part too.
All right, and is the mic green? If the mic is green, we're good to go. Yep, push the button. Yep.
All right, there we go. Well, good evening. My name is Ryan Burns. I'm the agent for Southwestern Wisconsin that represents this program. So I have lots of board meetings. I meet with lots of commissions, but this is unique because I live here.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a resident, and I only tell you that before I start to kind of have a discussion because, one, we have a very strong recommendation. The initial proposal you have is a little bit higher, so you'd say, what are you doing here? But I think there are some things that we need to talk about that are very important in the decision as a board. And so I know we have some professionals on the board, you specialize. So this is coming from a good place. And I think you would, in my same shoes, probably do the same thing, which is it's never good practices and we have respect for CIVMIC, but I think it's worth noting and making sure that you understand all the facts relating to coverage differences. And I know Todd had asked me not to get into too far of the weeds, but I think it's too important. He had mentioned the sewer backup, and yes, that is a no-fault coverage that we're going to eliminate, and that was a significant amount of premium. It's a very good coverage to have. It's our highest frequency of claims in the state because of the immunities related to water mains. We, gave a revised proposal where we actually raised our retentions and we removed that to try to create more of an apples to apples. So I think we sort of equalized the pricing there, but that's only one exclusion that we need to talk about. In 2019, we had a land use claim. I don't know if anybody remembers that. We have former trustees that were named in that and remember that experience, and that was upwards of $600,000. So that is a big ticket item, and it might be worth you knowing before you make a decision that, our two largest losses in our program out of 560 members in the state, out of every type of insurance you can think of, 4.7 million and 4.5 million, both land use. So I like to stick to what we know, and I'm going to give our CEO an opportunity, but I do know there to be exclusions in this alternative product, and I would encourage you to ask those questions. If there needs to be a legal review and you need to delay this decision for you to feel comfortable in moving forward, I would encourage that as well. So I'm going to be respectful of the 10 minutes, and I'm going to allow Matt to address some of the HR issues and training that we've done in the past and what we have in the future. So.
Issue.
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Ryan. And first and foremost, thanks to Todd and Renee. Appreciate their comments as well about the league insurance program. We've worked with them for a long time. You guys have a great group here, and the meeting you just had is a shining star amongst many I've seen throughout the state. So you guys are in a good spot. Yeah, we just want to be helpful here. You know, as Ryan said and as Todd said, there's respect all around. I know these guys over here. These are good guys, right? They do a good job running their company. And there's differences, and all we want to do is educate, right? And you get to make the choice. We don't say one's better than the other. It's your choice, right? Todd and Renee and the team, they had, like you said, a really difficult task to compare proposals. So the ones you have in front of you are not comparable, right? Different limits, different deductibles, right? And you know, there wasn't any discussion about, okay, what is the right limit or deductible? You know, if you just want a higher deductible and lower your premium, we can do that, right? But what's right for the village, right? And we talked about coverage. You know, we talked about that land use claim that you guys had. You know, that makes a difference, right? When you guys are named along with the village, when you're named individually on a suit, what are you going to do, right? And there's a lot. We pride ourselves on having the best coverage, you know, that's available in the marketplace. So you can go to sleep at night knowing you've done the best you can for the village. So we just wanted to be helpful and answer any questions. You know, there's certain things that are important for you as a board, right? Not just land use. There's things around personal injury. If you're sued for libel slander, that's something that our policy is going to cover, right? And these are things that you don't have to actually have done, but people just think you did. You know, people can sue you for any reason out there. I'll note that I looked back over the last 5 years or so, and the premium that you guys paid as a village, if I drew a line graph, it would be this, right? It's been remarkably stable, and that's because we're a member-owned company. You know, we value stabilization as a partnership. So even after that big claim, it's like, okay, let's move forward. We're good. So I think that's good to know that we've been a long-term partner, stable. You know, we want to give you stable pricing, and the resources we have available are huge. And I think we've had a lot of opportunities to engage with the village that haven't quite been as fruitful as we thought. So we have a trainer on HR going out to one of our communities tomorrow to do work that I just met with. The resource exists. Todd mentioned a legal resource. We don't provide a HR consultant. You have an employment attorney available at no cost to utilize. You want to do a handbook review, you want to talk FMLA, wage and hour issues, progressive discipline, whatever it is, we've got it for you. We have a whole online learning system that probably hasn't been utilized to its full capacity as well. So we've been trying to further engage and provide those resources. So I think there's a great opportunity to kind of reset on that side, but know that it is there to utilize and support that position, right? Because that is huge. You know, insurance should be down here on the priority list of all these things you guys were talking about today. We want to give you the peace of mind that it can stay there. So with that, we'll take any questions you have.
All right. So what questions do we have? Let's start with you, Sam, actually.
Right now, I don't have any specific questions, so.
Jack?
I guess what I'm hearing is that in your policy, you've got D&O insurance that covers us.
Sure.
And I'm wondering, does the other policy have that as well?
Yes. It's the difference is in the details, right? Yep.
Nyla?
No questions at this time.
All right, Joe?
Had the same thought that Jack did, but we'll know more as we go.
Chris?
Thank you for all you've done already for the village. I don't think we've made a decision yet, but we'll hear what we have to hear, and I appreciate what you guys do.
And Aaron?
Yeah, I don't have comments or questions right now, besides to thank you for expanding and excited to keep learning tonight.
All right.
And he's a resident here. He loves the good property tax.
All right. All right. Thank you, guys. I don't have any questions either, at least now. So thanks much. We do appreciate everything that you've done. All right. Civmic. Yeah.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Steve Stanzik. I'm the Chief Executive Officer with Cities and Villages. So I appreciate the opportunity to introduce CIVMIC for the villages consideration. And I will echo what Matt Becker has said. We know each other. We work with each other. We have respect for each other's respective organizations, and just how we approach things maybe a little bit differently. But in the end, it's providing and supporting the members. We're mutuals, we're member owned, and that's what we provide to our group. So in respect of your time, what I'd like to do is just touch on just a couple things. Renee, on the next slide, thank you so much. So what you'll hear me say frequently is partnership. We have a governing board, no differently than the mutual, but also with the finance committee, we work collaboratively with them. They are colleagues, they are department heads of other respective municipalities. Although I have another slide that reflects we are 57 members, which roughly, when you look at the population size of the communities that we represent, are just about 30% of the state of Wisconsin. So they may be the city of Green Bay, Appleton, Kenosha, Racine, and also to include in the Madison area, I believe we have 8 other communities. They're also represented. So what we do is we partner with all of our members. We work directly with them, and the business model and the staffing that we have reflects that level of partnership. So Renee, if you wouldn't mind, this just kind of gives you an idea of the Madison area. Apologies to Stoughton with the, and probably Lodi geographically, but AI still has some bugs in it, so that would have been reflected in the map. On the other slide, Renee just shows kind of a visual of what our members look like from across the state. And I don't expect probably anybody to be able to see that, but if you have the slide deck later, we can provide that. The next slide is the one I'll probably spend most of the discussion, albeit in abbreviate a couple minutes here. And that is the dedicated service teams that your community will have. We are staffed with 33 employees, and the overwhelming majority of our employees, their sole purpose is to provide support directly to the members. And if you were to look at our staff, I would say between all of them, that we have about 300 plus years of experience working either directly for or with local government. So, so even your finance committee and board meeting is nostalgic because I spent 35 years in local government. So I consider this close to home. So these particular service teams, the village would derive direct support from. And so I would note, for example, safety and risk management, even though the village may have and accept a little bit higher SIR, we focus directly on loss mitigation efforts in safety and loss control to provide the best practices that the village has and supporting where you need them. On average, we provide about 17 contacts per all of our members, and that would include a number of site visits and facility inspections. From a safety and risk management team, you would have a designated representative from that group. HR advisor team, as a matter of fact, I'm going through my own budget process, and in that process, we will also be recommending to the board adding yet another HR advisor. That would include 4 among our 57. And what I'll note in that is our service levels to our members. We have purposely slow strategic growth because we don't want to compromise the level of service that our members receive. So growth doesn't do us any good, and especially doesn't do our members any good if that means they're being compromised on the level of service that they're expecting. So the HR advisor team, the village would receive its own specific advisor. All of our HR advisors have worked in local government, so they know the local government practices. They would help with investigations, policies, hiring practices or any other assistance that, that the village would need. On the work comp, your adjuster would be directly on staff. You would be assigned a specific adjuster who does nothing but adjust for local government. General liability, auto physical damage, again, yet another adjuster. You will get a claims manager. And although the village may accept a higher SIR, we provide direct administrative claims support services from $1 and handholding of your team to be able to help assist them in any of the claims that they need. Leadership development, that is one of the strengths that our organization provides. We have a full-time trainer. We have provided upwards of 18,000 employees trained just in 2024. That's on average of about 300 employees per community that go through our training. We specialize not only in all sorts of training, whether it be customer service, but primarily the emphasis is on leadership development. Not only providing leadership training for your department heads, for your supervisors, but also providing developmental training for your succession planning and your supervisors or yet to be named supervisors in the wings. Member services, that is the group that will support. We pride ourselves on transparency. We will provide insights and direct assistance with coverages, with your special events to include any insights as we address underwriting matters. Of note, I would add at the bottom, protective services. We have a full-time protective services, a former police chief. And one thing I would compliment Waunakee on, and that is you are Wiley Egg certified. That should be of significant pride. That is less than 10% of the law enforcement agencies in the state are Wiley Egg certified. And that is a commonality among our members that we anticipate that in 2026 that we will have of those 48, 40% of them will be CIVMIC members. So with that, we embrace the same best practices on the law enforcement side. And when we build community, that individual will be reaching out to your police chief and bringing them along to all those group meetings and best practices among all of our police departments. And the underwriting financial support as well as the IT, our IT team provides support and assistance on the cyber security aspects, as well as additional products, including the premium that we pick up on behalf of the members. So essentially, you know, our company may be a bit non-traditional in the sense of what you might get from an insurance company, but we do provide the direct support services as village administration has alluded to, that we think in terms of some of the financial challenges that the community or that your village has with staffing issues. We want to be here to support all of your department heads to be able to meet them where they want and provide any of the strategic assistance. We build communities and partnerships, and that is exceptionally important to all of us. And my personal cell number is left with any single one of our members so that we are accessible at any time of the day. So I too, and as long as Chief of Operations and Director of Member Services, Ben and Dave, we're available to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. And so let's start with you, Erin. Questions that you've got?
I don't have any questions besides thank you for the additional information.
Chris.
I'm in an unusual position. I'm Chris, not Mike. So I'm in an unusual position in that I have insurance background for a lot of years, and I'm also in a position that's just unusual because we have an incumbent that has a very high ranking within, but Todd's recommending a change from it. So that's a little bit unusual where I sit when I see those things. So with that said, knowing that I haven't heard anything negative or bad in regards to our incumbent, I've only heard positives that they're going to be recommended to anybody. Why do we want to make this change other than price? Because really the only thing I'm hearing right now is price, and that we may have some HR functions, which probably could be with the other company as well.
Well, the why really is you're aware that's really for yourselves and your administration to decide as to the why. All I can say is that on behalf of our company, what we will do is we will prioritize the village and its interests in supporting on the service side, to support on the coverage side. The village will have a voice. As I said, we have 57 members. And, many of them are involved, whether it be through the finance committee or the board. So all of our members have a voice. And if there happens to be a void somewhere, it is heard and it is acted on. And so I can just say that we are extraordinarily responsive.
If you had to describe a client that maybe wasn't happy with the services that you've had, what was the reasons for those?
I would say that I'm not aware of a former client that has been unhappy with the service. Much like the village is talking about, every one of our members has financial pressures. So it's the financial pressures that has really driven some of the discussions of, whether you're looking internally at your own operations or other service providers. They leave no stone unturned. And if that means they can save $10,000, as an example, $10,000 is, depending upon the community, can be very meaningful. So quite frankly, on the financial matters, that's what we have seen that has driven a couple members to consider alternatives.
Okay. What is your loss ratios typically?
On what line of coverage?
In general, for the organization?
On the general liability side, we've been running upwards of 18%. And more recently with a couple high significant claims with police shooting issues, I think we're probably running about maybe 34%.
Okay. When we did our RFP, or did we do an RFP process that we said what we were prioritizing for, Todd?
Yes, we did utilize a process. The problem is, yes, we did utilize a process, but the problem is that the coverage offerings aren't identical.
So if they were not aware of something that we were looking for, or maybe different, is that an issue? I mean, we're talking about if you're just putting it out there and they don't know that we're looking for human resource type programs. So they don't put that in, or they don't highlight it, whereas one did in this case, it sounds like.
Oh, I think they both, the package of material benefit supports were clearly laid out in both proposals. I feel, at least in my review, very confident in understanding both programs, and I've utilized both. We utilized the attorney, for example, that the league has. She reviewed our handbook the last time we did a review. I think it was 5 years ago, did a word for word review on the handbook and offered advice for adjustments.
Maybe I didn't ask it right.
Do you feel like what they provided, especially in that member benefits guide, that doesn't convey the
So what I'm
variety of-
asking is, when this was given to them to propose, did they all know what they were proposing, specifics that we were looking for? Did you clearly state we were looking for any specific topic outside of our normal insurance that we were talking about? So the incumbent is at a disadvantage, is what I'm getting at here, is because they're putting out what we've been doing. That's what we've been looking for. If it was put out in a different way, that they were supposed to have something else in there, did they miss anything, or were they not given that opportunity?
Well, I'll let each of them explain. My understanding is that it's not that the HR supports that I'm talking about aren't a la carte. Like, you can pick this one to be part of your program, or you can pick that one. This is their array of supports. You guys can correct me if I'm different, but that's my experience with both companies.
Okay. That's everything for me. Thank you.
Joe?
What more can you tell me about the NeoGov software and that program?
Sure. So NeoGov is an HR applicant type of tool that provides any number of different type of modules. It's my understanding that Waunakee purchases that program. I'm not sure which type of modules it has, but that's inclusive within our offerings of member benefits.
Some are and some aren't. Jared can share with you exactly what we do.
Yep. So we currently have two of the modules through NeoGov. One is called Perform. That is our performance evaluation management system. And the other one is Onboard, which is the tool we use whenever we hire a new employee. It's got all their documents, their paperwork on there, guides, insurance guides, things like that on there. And as my understanding is through the CIVMIC program, they include a couple of the NeoGov modules as a value add, one of them being Onboard. So the cost essentially that we are currently paying for Onboard, if we were to go with CIVMIC, would go away. And then there may even be some additional cost savings on Perform because of the agreement that NeoGov has with CIVMIC.
And are we already under a contract for any period of time?
No, it gets reviewed on an annual or renewed on an annual basis.
Okay. And we have not gone through that yet for 2026?
Actually oh my goodness, Renee, can you help me? Which one of them gets renewed on December 5th? I believe.
Right, that is the Perform.
Okay.
And that is the one that is not part of the package that they offer inclusive. But we could get potentially a 30% discount. The other one renews January 1st, and we have not gotten anything to renew that, so that it could be rolled directly without much issue.
All right. That's all I've got at this point.
All right, Nyla.
Okay, I'm not fortunate enough to have a background in insurance like Chris, and I'm just looking at this from a point of view that from listening to different information that I've picked up here and there, watching documentaries and 60 Minutes and things like this. And when I hear self-insurance, it actually kind of has it leaves a negative image in my mind, because I've heard of cases where employers have taken on self-insurance and basically it has hurt their employees. I don't know exactly how self-insurance would affect our insurance, but I really hesitate when I hear that. Another thing that comes to my mind is, how many times have we, any one of us, taken out a homeowner's policy or an auto policy because it's less expensive, and within a year or two, it has gone higher and higher and higher, and pretty soon it's higher, and then you go back and compare where you were, and it's like, it just gradually goes higher. It's like, it's almost saying, come on in, we're less expensive. And you go in and you buy into it, and then in no time at all, you're out checking again. That's just my, the little bit I know about insurance. So I'm saying to the board, let's consider this pretty heavily before we make any decisions. Thanks.
Thank you, Nyla. Jack.
I guess just building on Joe's comments, this NeoGov or whatever, what are we paying for that? Is it $3,000? Is it 10,000? Is it 20,000? When we're talking about discounts, are we getting a discount of $100 or $30? What is that?
Well, Todd had in the memo, we currently budget or pay $8,286 a year for the, and this one says Perform, but this was an error in the memo.
Okay.
It should have been Onboard. So that's $8,286 that we pay now that we would not have to pay under CIVMIC.
Okay. And I guess one of the, do both of these policies include this sewage backup? I know reading in here, the state has some type of protection. What is that? Is that the self-insurance that you're talking about, or?
No, the league offers as an option, no fault sewer backup coverage. That's the coverage that I detailed that we've had I detailed the 10 years of experience with. That this CIVMIC does not offer that as an option.
And is there some state protection?
Yeah, there.
What is the state protection? You know, how does?
Yeah, I'm
how does it?
happy to let the league talk about that insurance product. If
I'm
that's
just,
okay.
I'm
if
just
that's
trying to
all right.
understand, have we had any sewage backup?
We have, yeah, I'm going back to the memo over the past 10 years, we've paid $36,500 in claims for sewer backup that the state of Wisconsin does in fact protect communities from having to pay. Because it's established that it wasn't the village's neglect or lack of care for our sewer system that led to the backup itself. So that's why the state then affords that protection under law. Now, I don't necessarily like to, I mean, doesn't matter to me whether the state offers that protection or not. What matters to me is the fact that we take really dang good care of our sewer system and do all things we can within our power to prevent loss for the folks who we provide services for. And that's where I personally have confidence if there is in fact a sewer backup that we didn't cause, to truly claim we're not responsible for that. We did nothing to cause such a thing to happen. So, I mean, it's an option to take. It essentially is a policy to protect those unique circumstances and a policy, frankly, to help not have complicated conversations with residents. It really solves the argument before it happens.
No, I
is what it is.
I understand that. I understand it solves the problem before it happens, but I guess my question, we take good care of our systems, but we all know that things break. And you know, if it breaks and you do have a sewage backup, is the state responsible then for those particular claims? Or
No,
does it?
I don't want to get too far out over. If you'd like to invite Matt, who is probably in the room, the best expert on that policy.
Well, I'm just trying to understand what are citizens going to be out?
Matt, would you mind? Thank you.
Sewer backup's kind of 3 layers, right? Todd's right. So case law in Wisconsin basically gives the municipality really good immunities from sewer backups, right? So unless you're negligent in some way, you're not going to be found liable. Okay. So what the no fault product says, even if you are liable, which does happen, we will pay those claims. Now, Todd's analysis is very good. You know, is it worth it? Maybe, maybe not. Based on your practices where they do change age of your system, equipment you have to maintain it, could make good sense for the village. That's an optional quote on ours. I think that takes off that $30,000. So there's a difference though. Most sewer backups do not happen because of, you know, good practices. Most of the time it's people flushing stuff down their toilet, right? We've had people vandalize storm sewers, shove things down there, blocks it up. The no fault sewer mostly is purchased by communities because they don't want to sit here, have a resident say, poop came from your system into my basement, and you're telling me case law says you're not responsible? You may be right, but they don't like it. And we've had that over and over again. And we've had board members whose houses have been backed up, you know, and had that issue. The third layer of it is whether you have coverage, whether you're negligent or not. So we can give you the no fault. If you don't want that, that's fine. We cover you if you're negligent. I won't speak for these guys, but there's a policy exclusion on their policy for sewer backups, even if you are negligent. And that's just for your benefit. It's a choice. I like Todd's analysis, right? May or may not be worth it.
So what comes into your basement? Are you fixing up the basement then?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we do a lot of that, yeah.
Okay.
That's your work.
And my advice, Jack, is if that's important to the village, or more importantly, utilities, to cover and protect our residents from, recognizing that over 10 years, we've paid 36,000, put 50K in balance in the set aside account and let it sit and live there and make a choice to handle those claims if they come or don't, understanding that we have protections. I question I worry that that isn't the wisest use of funds for our community. And I'm thinking about all taxpayers or ratepayers, not the few that have benefited from the policy.
And I agree. But at the end of the day, the numbers, is it, the ratepayers, is that, 10 people over a 5-year period? It's hard to make a decision on that, but I guess, obviously you've got to look at it, from the, financial, standpoint as well. And, it appears that, we're all offering the similar products. And I don't want to get into, the details, but, why is one so far, so far more expensive?
Well, I mean, I can explain that too. I mean, right, it's a difference in the policies, because we are taking on some of the retention, it leads to a lower premium. But there's other differences that we evaluated as well, not simply the premium and the different, the cost of sewer backup. We took that out of our comparison, things like that. So, again, some of the savings that we're seeing in the premiums is because we do have to take on some of that risk ourselves. I don't know if Ryan, if you had something different to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we.
Yeah, if you don't mind going to the microphone.
Sorry, rookie
That's okay.
mistake there. We did match this $25,000 self-insured retention. And I know this was after the fact, but I felt it was only fair for us to get an opportunity to match the pricing, and I feel like it was relatively equalized with what you're not seeing. But there's a couple things that came up that I really hope are just hitting home. Is, Matt had mentioned an exclusion around whether or not you're negligent when you work on water mains, and I still have to go back to this land use claim because that's the nuclear verdict that we cover. That there are challenges that unless something has changed with the alternative option here, that's, if I was in your shoes, be asking some questions about. We're talking several $1 million in loss. A community that I'm aware of just dodged a $2 million bullet of a potential land use claim. That's what I'm concerned about. Somebody as your agent and somebody that lives here.
I guess
Ryan, can I just ask a quick question? Ryan, whenever somebody mentions that they live in the village, do they share their address? Can you share your address for us, please?
Sure. 6771 County Road K.
Okay, that's in Springfield. I just want to be clear for the board.
Waunakee mailing address, but yeah, I'm involved in this community and I'm here a lot, so.
I guess the other thing too is cybersecurity. What is our protection in cybersecurity on both of these? Are they equal?
So Jared helped submit a detailed questionnaire to both companies so that they could include cyber coverage, because we had some very basic cyber coverage with the league, because we historically had not had all of the what would you say, the security in place to meet the qualifications to obtain that insurance. And so we did, though, now request a quote from them. And then it was also part of the CIVMIC coverage. So we would under both scenarios, we would have additional cyber coverage than we have right now.
And are they equal? In your mind?
I do believe they were very close. The CIVMIC coverage is included in the price, and the in our analysis, we had to add that on to the league as additional premium for fairly. I can't remember the coverages offhand, but yeah, definitely in both cases, it's more than we have now. Anything to add there, Jared?
No, I think Renee did a really good job. I myself haven't seen them side by side, but I have to imagine they're going to be extremely comparable because the questionnaires were almost identical, verbatim. In fact, I think I didn't even have to change any of my answers between the two questions. So I assume based on that, the policies are going to be almost identical, would be my assumption.
Thank you.
It's the same carrier for both groups.
One note I'll share, there was a mention about the league submitting a revised proposal. I didn't present that to you. I didn't present that to you because I believe it damaged the integrity of the staff's approach to fair bidding processes. That submittal came after our packets were published and the, transparency was afforded for the civic policy that the league then reviewed, and they submitted an alternative. I shared with them that I was not going to submit that. That's not the approach that I take in supporting all parties who submit to projects and proposals for the village. The integrity of the staff's approach is required in that case. If you wish to see it, or if you wish to allow CIVMIC the chance to provide alternatives after having viewed the league's proposal, I'm happy to sort of play that process for you and come back with another set of proposals at your next meeting. I personally don't think that gets us anywhere very well. And I, again, worry about that impacting the integrity of the village's approach to bidding.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Which, Todd, you're kind of going to where I was asking my question. It's looking at making this easy to understand health insurance. If somebody comes and we don't put it out to them clearly and they provide a first dollar coverage versus somebody who comes with a $5,000 deductible, of course the $5,000 deductible is going to be less expensive. That's kind of what I'm seeing's happened here. And what your point is right now, they didn't have an opportunity as the incumbent who we've had great experience with to even have that match. We didn't let them know we want different options for a deductible, basically. Is that fair to say or no?
I mean, to the extent to which deductibles are or aren't an option isn't something I was aware of related to the league's policy. So again, that's something that you can request, but I think respectfully, the same crack at a competition then would need to be afforded to CIVMIC. Because CIVMIC didn't see, they didn't see the league's proposal before making theirs.
I understand that, but this is something that's very critical within for understanding, are we first dollar coverage? Are we a deductible? And do we have different deductible options even in front of us? Or is it just one deductible that we have for an option? And that could be for both, not just one, to understand that concept. Because if I'm the insurance company and I don't have that, and I know I'm going to win if I put a deductible in, because I'm going to be less expensive, that's just not right, I don't think. So,
Thank you, Chris. Jack, did you have any other questions?
No, I guess I want to echo that, what I'm seeing or what I'm thinking and is, did we lay this proposal out in such a way that we were bidding apples and apples? And, I've gone through several construction projects and, we put together a framework and said, okay, the construction is going to be different, when we have all the completed drawings, but these are the things that
that were critical to us in making a decision. So
You know what I'd like to do is actually ask CIMIC and the league the frequencies where they find themselves able to hit the mark on exact apples to apples proposals. I mean, I think I know the answer, but I mean, you're looking at me, kind of poking at me about it. They're doing this every day, pursuing proposals. Is it okay to?
Yeah, can we come back to that? Sam has not had a chance to ask questions yet.
Yeah, I'd just
so.
like to hear the civic response to the comments about the land use claims that were coming up, if you'd be willing to address that.
Well, land use is speculative in terms of the claim. So as I understand, there are references to potentially a land use claim that the village has had previously. It'd be speculative on our part to ascertain the merits and the coverage. But as one of the board members had noted before, we do have D&O coverage. We do represent the board, so all defense would be afforded to the board on behalf of, as part of our practice, even on a land use matter.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, Sam? No? All right. And Nyla, you had a follow-up question?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I understand the reasoning for not wanting to cover the sewage coverage, and I know that our public works does a great job maintaining things, but things still happen. So no matter whether we have coverage on our insurance or not, we need to come up with a way to compensate someone to make them whole in the event that the village is liable when it comes to one of these situations. Thanks.
If the village is liable, that's a different circumstance in relation to coverage. So maybe, not sure who might be best to answer that question, either of the insurance providers. Can you talk about coverage when the village is liable?
We cover it.
Go ahead, Matt.
We cover it if you're liable.
Yeah, you'll have to go to the, otherwise they can't hear you online.
We cover it if you're liable.
Thank you. Thank you.
If I may, my name is Ben Rank. I'm the manager of products and risk management with CIVMIC. And Steve just asked I come up to talk more nuanced about some of the coverages. Specifically, the liability policy for CIVMIC would, as the league mentioned and called out, would exclude that type of a situation. However, we do have optional coverages noted in the packet specific to pollution legal liability coverage. That's an optional group purchase for us that does and can pick up pollution to the extent that it could be even sewage if you are found to be at fault.
Yeah, go ahead.
Follow-up question, is that coverage covered in the amount shown and the cost now? Is that reflected or not?
I would defer to Todd and staff if that's included. I believe it was included in our quote as an optional coverage.
Nice check-in.
I do not believe that was included in the total because it was optional coverage. And we didn't add that into the total for this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, any other questions? Erin? No?
I feel like it was a little bit asked and answered, but this land use comment, I feel like is getting thrown around and I feel really strongly in the fact that our staff would not have brought two products to us that neither one would adequately represent or insure the village. So I'm, thankful for us to have this ability to learn more from these. Sorry, I have a very weak throat voice right now, but are there additional concerns from staff regarding the liability coverage for us as a board or our other committee members or plan commissions, et cetera, for that situation?
Look, comfortable presenting both proposals as as adequate and successful insurers of many, many communities across the state, I don't think that there's an aspect of going wrong. I think we're going to be insured well in both cases. And if we had a concern on the level of insurability or coverage or care for the community, I mean, there's a reason that you only see two companies, because they both stand out in Wisconsin.
Other questions, Erin?
No, I think it's just, I am seeing this when I, was reading the memo too. And so then when I was reading the memo, it was mentioned that those claims, like the insurance company is taking the lead on settlement decisions and a lot of those determinations, and that was a benefit to the staff. So then when it was referenced this another land use situation or anything of the sort, I just wanted to make sure that the other process was not of grave concern, because we did have a good experience with that.
Thanks, Erin. Joe?
The summary sheet indicates that Waunakee Utilities is in for about 35% of this. What involvement did they have in this process?
I know, I think Tim Herlitzka, the utility director, sat in on a info session, boy, it was a couple of years ago, regarding, maybe not a year, regarding the league as a new option for service delivery, informative, a matter of informational about their products. What else?
I mean, we did reach out to him about a couple questions as we were reviewing this. I mean, he generally didn't have a strong opinion. He typically defers to what the village board decides.
I think the one thing that the village and utilities want to talk about is a great deal of the service scope that we receive from a contracted service we get from MEUW. They provide a safety coordinator. The vast majority of work completed by the safety coordinator is a service that CIVMIC offers as part of their package. And we would want to rediscuss the value of that. The village shares a $30,000 cost on an annual basis with utilities for safety training. You've seen the reports, they go and inspections and CPR training and a variety of other things. But and that contract is up at the end of next year with MEUW. That is worth evaluating again. There's better options, I believe, for the village.
And that service here is part of what we're looking at, or it's an add-on?
No, that's part of the program.
Okay.
But again, I wouldn't want to put the utilities in kind of a bind, so we're in with them through 2026.
Okay.
And at the end of that time, I believe there's going to be potential for at least $15,000 or in the neighborhood of $15,000 in savings.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? No? So from my perspective, when we met earlier about the budget, one of the things we were looking at is cost savings across the board. Where can we find dollars to make sure that our increase in taxes was going to be less than what we initially thought it was? And I think you've done a fabulous job of looking at all of the different options. This clearly is one option. So thank you for doing that, because it's a significant change in premiums. I also hear and agree with it. It might not have been an apples to apples comparison or an apples to apples bid. Respecting the integrity of the process, though it is not feeling like we've got consensus here. Am I reading the room correctly? And do we want to take a little bit more time to contemplate this and bring back more proposals, or what would you guys like to do as a board? Are you comfortable voting tonight on it? Yeah.
I don't know how things are usually done within the insurance industry, but is it possible for the village to come up with what would be almost like an RFP what we need, what we want, and then have bids done pertaining to that? Is that too complicated? Because each insurance company already has their own package made and that's that, or how does it work?
So let's keep that in mind and ask the other board members
Okay.
too, what they're comfortable with. Is anybody interested in a second round of bidding? Are we comfortable making a decision with what we've got? Chris?
I'm at a point where I just want to take this and absorb it tonight.
Okay.
Until the next meeting potentially. We have a client, provider, however we want to call them, that has serviced us really well. And I just want to make sure we think this through very quickly before we discard or turn somebody away that we've had a good experience with no bad experience.
Yeah.
That's all. So I just want to contemplate what's been said tonight.
Good. Joe?
Is there any sort of a time concern with this?
Yeah, we need to decide this by the, unless the insurers need more time by our budget, by completion of our budget, because it has a bearing on our budget. I guess the question is to the insurers whether November 17th as a deadline to get an answer is sufficient to continue. Yeah, it sounds like that's possible. We heard a lot of good questions and good thoughts, and I think your team here can take all that information, especially I'm going to kind of look behind my head at Jared in relation to the HR questions, because, what I don't have is him really laying out a pros and cons view on each of the programs. I like to allow him to have a crack at that and asking follow-up questions with the insurers. And I will share that when we kicked this off, I sought, and I remember doing this, guys, 12 years ago, and we did the attempt at an RFP. I don't know if you remember then, but we had an insurer out in the business park. I remember how complicated that got with Murphy Insurance. But I remember it pretty vividly. And despite our lines with clear expectations for the answers, we did not have a green apple and a green apple. Maybe there was a Macintosh and a green apple. I don't know. But it was an impossible task. And as we pursued this project this year, I sought proposals and I reviewed experiences with other communities who made decisions within the past 2 or 3 years with these very two insurers as the points of the parties that were being contemplated. And I didn't find any example where you had the Loctite absolute apples to apples. Now, these guys heard our challenge here tonight, and to the extent that we can put on paper the very best comparison possible, along with options that might be afforded, we're going to try to do that for you within your next meeting or two. So this is good conversation, good feedback, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Nyla?
I have another question. If the league provided a different numbers and we aren't seeing those, so we won't be looking at those at all, correct?
It sounds to me like you're asking any and all information that you can get your hands on to compare the two proposals.
Yes.
That means that the team here will be working with both insurers to get additional information, which may even be more information than we even have today.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Jack?
I guess as I agree with the fair process. And, the same set of questions should be presented to each company to keep it a fair process.
Sam?
I would concur with what these two have just said.
And Aaron?
No other question.
All right. So November 3rd, our next meeting. Joe, anything else?
I'm just wondering, obviously, Tim Herliska was involved, at least to some extent. Is this something that should go to utilities next week?
We'll confer with Tim to see, how to approach this. He's been aware of our work on this. We pinged him with a bunch of questions and it's kind of more like, you tell me who my insurer is and we'll pay our bill. But, I think we can bring him in more deeply into the process and get his feedback.
Sure.
Whether the utility commission should be part of that discussion. I think that should, relate. Who pays the no fault coverage? Is it full utility or does the village?
The no fault sewer is paid fully by the utility.
So I think that point, again, no matter who we choose, I think our utility commission should think seriously about that policy versus alternatives to protect their customers. And I think the numbers here that I show scream that out loud. It's not a hard analysis to make. So, and if we can have Tim join us at our next meeting, I think we try to do that.
My biggest concern, I guess, is because utilities meets next week, but there won't be another one before November 17th. If that's something that needs to go to that body, then we should make that happen.
Okay, we'll circle up with him tomorrow.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you guys for coming in. We are nothing if not thoughtful. So, very thoughtful. So, all right, 9:00. Budget season is always a night of long meetings. Yeah, so, all right. Item number 2, discuss and take action on 2026 Waunakee Area Fire District budget. So, straight to you guys. Todd?
Well, I'll
Renee?
just, sorry, I still had the
Okay.
last presentation up. I just wanted to get to my memo. So, and I did say this in the board summary sheet. Historically, we have approved the fire and the EMS budgets just as part of our overall budget process, which happens in November. But in looking at the agreements, it does seem like we are supposed to do it prior to that. And so that's why we have the separate items and actual individual motions for those budgets. So fire is listed first, so I'll let them step up to the podium. But the fire district budget was approved at the last September meeting of the fire district. And so this is, so they're here mainly for questions, or if they want to add a little bit about, some changes to the budget. Obviously Nyla and Kristen were both at that meeting and can add anything they want. But this is just meant to be a ratification of, it has to go back to all the municipalities for, to ratify the budget that was approved by the fire district board.
Thank you. All right, the floor is yours.
So I'm assuming you guys have the packet kind of in front of you there. So you can probably see some of the adjustments that we made. Under the legal, you see a big increase there of $10,000. Obviously, that's something the fire district has never had. So we were kind of going on a whim there. I'm no attorney at all, so hopefully 10,000 should kind of cover there. Another big one you'll probably see is under training, the $3,500 for specialized training. Obviously, with all the nuances coming out of EV vehicles, I guess don't want to touch on it too much, but the photovoltaic systems, we decided to up our budget just to hopefully get some of these companies in and help us train on those new things. And a couple other things, the repair and maintenance, obviously last year was, or I guess this year would have been the first full year under the village maintenance contract. And we were getting pretty close to that, so we decided to put a little bit more into that as well, just being that stuff doesn't seem to be getting cheaper to repair these trucks. So that was kind of some of the highlights of what we increased. Otherwise, normal, typical rent and communicational stuff. So.
Right. All right. Thank you. Do we have any questions? So Sam.
No questions. Thank you.
Jack.
No questions. Thank you.
Nyla.
No questions.
Joe.
No questions. I would just say, I look at some of the numbers on here and honestly, I feel like some of them feel a little low, particularly when you're looking at things like training. But As long as those numbers work for you, I am happy to stick with them.
All right. No comments on load training budget? No? All right. All right, Chris?
I'm good. Thank you.
Aaron?
Yeah, unfortunately, after all of your patience tonight, I don't really have any more questions besides thank you.
Budget and insurance.
All right.
3-hour.
Cripping stuff.
You're,
All right. I
you're
think
well
we need a-
prepared for next year.
So, I think we need a motion then.
I'll move to approve the Waunakee Area Fire District 2026 budget.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thanks for waiting, you guys. Thanks for the patience. Go get some sleep. Yeah, all right. Next up, EMS. So I think back to you, Renee.
Yeah, so basically the same on EMS, in terms of this is the board's chance to help or to approve that the EMS budget. In this case, though, my understanding is the EMS did not vote to approve the budget. They wanted it to first go to the municipalities and then they'll take it up at their next meeting. But again, in accordance with our agreements, the village board is required to approve that. So Scott's here to talk to us a little bit about his budget before that would happen.
Not much of an audience left. So, did you, Renee, you said you gave them the highlight sheet?
Yeah, so in the packet
Packet.
was the proposed budget and the highlight sheet that Scott had prepared for the EMS commission.
Perfect. So, it's a little ironic that actually the first big cost savings we found was moving to the League of Municipalities, for an insurance carrier. But, that did see a pretty significant savings across the board with work comp as well as the rest of our insurance needs. Obviously, you guys note the big number at the bottom of it. The biggest additions, the employee wages. So we do have longevity increases that we hit with most of our employees, as well as contractually, we are bringing on one new employee in January of next year. That was built into the CBA that was signed 2.5 years ago now. But that was also part of the current employees took a wage freeze to make that happen, to help offset that. The overtime line that went up, that was increased to reflect, the increase in overtime rates. So by bringing on this employee, we actually take our hourly average from 52 hours a week down to 48 hours a week. And so with the salaries remaining the same, the hourly rate goes up. So that's to reflect that, as well as to better reflect actuals from 25. 2025, it has been a bit of an anomaly year, with some people being out long-term as far as that goes. The other increases, health insurance. So it's assuming family for one new employee on the Kelly shift, as well as the 9 to 9.5% increases for the employer share on those. WRS, I was really shocked to see that our contribution actually goes down for WRS. I've never seen that since I started here. But that's going down. The actual line item does go up a little bit, to reflect adding that extra position in. And then the revenue, so I don't know if you guys have all had an opportunity to see our budgets, but of the actual 1.2 million, well, almost 1.3, excuse me, that gets assessed to municipalities, that's only roughly about half of our budget. So we are requesting a $2.6 million budget, that about half of that actually gets billed out. The rest is brought in through revenue, through run revenues that we have. So with this budget, we actually include a slight increase in projected number of calls that we're going to end up getting. There's a new GEMT program out there that's seeing anywhere from $15,000 to $40,000 in increases. That's a really hard number to hit. This is the first year we've ever seen it, and we went back to 2023 and 2024 2023, we're looking at about 12,000. 2024, we're looking at about 30,000. So it's kind of a hard number to really project at this point, how much we're going to see an increase in revenues from that program. But it also assumes the recommended $200 increase in our transport fee and a $5 increase per loaded mile for the individuals that do call us and utilize our services. So I guess that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I don't know if anyone has any questions on this.
All right, we'll see. Nyla?
Yes, I do have questions, Scott. How many volunteers do you currently have on the EMS?
8 to 10. I don't want to give a hard number. But,
And what do they do when they're on duty?
same thing as our full-time. They come in, they ride on calls, they help us out on calls.
You have
hang out, they
drivers?
train, and I think all but 3 of them drive.
Okay, so how many hours a week or how many, if you have a crew that's, or a shift that's 6 hours, how many of them do a shift a week?
A shift so we don't really do 6-hour shifts. Most of our shifts are 12 or 24.
Okay.
And I'd say we get maybe 4 to 5 shifts a month that we have a full 24-hour volunteer on.
So on an average, how many hours would you say a volunteer does in a week or a month?
In a month, 12 to 24, give or take.
Okay. So, do you look for, I had been told at one time that there were people who wanted to sign up to be drivers and they weren't being accepted. Wouldn't that allow you to have your EMTs or your paramedics, excuse me, work with the patients, instead of driving?
We have looked into some of those concepts throughout the year, and I don't know if we've done it yet since you've been on, Sam, or not. But we have looked into those concepts throughout the years. We've had 1 or 2 people show some interest in it. I know recently we started working with the fire department to see if we get some of their people over to help as well, to go through that kind of training, but we are not actively going out and recruiting like driver onlys right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Jack?
I guess the question I have is, how do you, I see the, Waunakee's responsible for 68% of the budget.
Mhm.
And it's based on population. Is that by state law or more of a philosophical question?
It's,
how do you come up?
it's really set up by the agreements that are in place. And when EMS kind of came on board as a field in general back in the 60s, the thought process was a lot of fire departments are based off of equalized value because they save property. We're based off of population because we save lives. And that's always just been the concept people carried forward. I absolutely hate this phrase, but it's the way it's always been. There's really no rhyme or reason to it aside from that. And that's just what the agreement lays out.
Is there, obviously going forward, could it be on usage or, have you looked at anything other than?
We have over the years a few times. The commission has requested those kinds of numbers and they've looked into it and those types of deals. Nothing's ever stuck. They've looked at the different concepts of like 3-year and 5-year rolling averages on how often, the ambulance gets used and factoring that into population concepts. That would really need some kind of it's a good word, some kind of a route to open up the agreement to start looking at how we would fund that differently if we wanted to look into something besides just a straight per capita.
Sure.
Yep.
And when's our agreement up? Is it a 3-year, 5-year? When's the last time we negotiated?
So I want to make sure I get the words right on this. We did not revise the entire agreement. We amended a number of the clauses within the agreement in the last couple of years.
It was when Robert
Yeah,
McPherson
Robert
was
McPherson
on
was
the
our-
commission. So.
That was the first time since the seventies.
Yeah.
Touch.
Yes, we
Yeah.
actually had to take it and rewrite it from
'Cause
the
it was typewriter.
typewriter copies.
It was a mimeograph. So,
Does the, sorry,
Yeah.
the agreement just goes in perpetuity, right? There's no.
I honestly
I
don't recall. off the top
recall
of my head.
correctly, and I don't know if it was built into it, but there was some discussion. I know Robert had advocated for, periodic review every 5 years or 6 years that be put into the bylaws. I cannot off the top of my head remember if that was included in the updated agreement or not, so.
I don't
I haven't
recall off
looked
the
at
top
it
of
in
my
the
head,
last
but I
few
can
months.
send you that information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
definitely.
Yeah, so, Sam?
Obviously, I'm on the commission, so I've seen this before. Could you just explain to everybody else here what GEMT is?
So GEMT is the Ground Emergency Medical Transport Program that Wisconsin adopted this last year. So anytime we go and see a patient that utilizes Medicare fee-for-service, it falls into this GEMT program. And the purpose of this is to help make up the difference between our actual costs and the money that Medicaid gives us for it. So there's a whole lot of formulas we go through, and we work with our billing company to figure out the numbers. And then the state gets money from the federal government to allocate across all of those calls. So when you talk about trying to project how it works, we don't know how many of our citizens utilize that Medicare or Medicaid fee for service. It was a little shocking when I did it, because you look at the Medicaid calls that we have, and we have a lot of calls that the patients utilize Medicaid, but only a small fraction of them are the actual fee for service coverage.
All right, thanks, Sam. Aaron?
I don't have big questions. Do you anticipate any further staffing challenges in this next year with just anticipated leaves or people leaving?
No.
I was excited, I guess, to see in a retention lens, I guess, that people are utilizing the leave and paternity leave, and hopefully that keeps, happy staff keeping the same, and we can support you guys that way.
All right, Chris?
No questions.
Joe?
I'm curious, in the office section, there's 70,000 for LifeQuest. Do you feel you're getting enough benefit there?
Yes, absolutely. We've put that out to bid a few times since I've been here. And they did it, and it's actually a bit, so LifeQuest only does part of it now. LifeQuest has recently been bought out by a company called EMSMC, as has all of the local billing companies around here. So about mid-year this last year, we found out that the entire county is covered by the same company now. So it's kind of getting used to that, but I will say that since EMSMC has taken over, we've seen almost a 9% increase in our revenues from them. So it's actually been working fairly well.
Okay. And then secondarily, I see office equipment of about 36,000.
That brings our IT contract into that. We never, when we brought on a professional IT company 4.5 years ago, we never created a separate line item for it.
Okay.
So that's our IT company, which we just switched over to Applied Tech.
Okay. That's all. Thanks.
All right, I don't have any questions myself. Chris?
To your knowledge, have any of the other municipals voted yet?
Westport's the only one that mentioned it at the meeting.
They have voted
and
already.
they voted and approved it.
All right, with that, other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the 2026 Waunakee Area EMS District Budget.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion?
I don't know that it's so much a discussion. In future presentations, I would love to see actuals from recent. But
okay,
no big deal.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, any other comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you for coming tonight. All right. And then there were two. Yeah, so. Yeah. Are you here for Parks and Rec? I'm kidding. I know you are. We love you. But even our former. Yeah. so-
No, he probably, he needed a night away from Betty, so that's why.
Yeah.
he's here.
Oh, wow. Oh. Oh. All right, you can go in. Yeah, we're going into closed session next. Yeah. Yeah. Good to see you, Phil. Have a good night. All right. All right, our next two items are closed session. So,
One question, do we have Westport items for discussion in closed session? I don't,
did you not send?
we don't have any additional information related to.
Oh,
I don't have anything back.
yeah, I
from-
mean, I don't think we have anything to vote on, but I would give an update.
You've got some
I'll
updates?
give an
Okay, all right,
update,
sounds
yeah.
good.
Yeah, I was hoping Brian would send something over, but perhaps not. All right, so discuss and take action on Westport notice of intent to incorporate. I will read this and then we can vote on whether or not to go in closed session, and then I'll read the second one on Parks and Rec. So the village board may convene in closed session as authorized by Wisconsin statute 19.85 1E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The village board may reconvene in open session and discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in closed session. So do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right, roll call vote, please.
Nyla Fry,
Yes.
Aaron Moran,
Yes.
Sam Kaufman.
Yes.
Joel Zisselsberger,
Yes.
Jack Hyman,
Yes.
Chris Zellner.
Yes.
Kristen Rungy.
Yes. All right, second item, discuss and take action on terms and benefits for Parks and Recreation Director employment. Do we have anything public that we need to present on this, Todd? Yeah. Oh, anything public to present on Parks and Rec?
But like after we discuss it or?
No, but I do expect action in open session following closed, but we won't continue the video. We'll just have that information included in the official minutes.
All right, then. The village board may convene in closed session as authorized by Wisconsin statute 19.851C for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The village board may reconvene in open session and discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in closed session.
Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Joe Zisselsberger,
Yes.
Kristen Rungy,
Yes.
Sam Kaufman.
Yes.
Chris Zellner.
Yes.
Nyla Fry,
Yes.
Aaron Moran,
Yes.
Jack Hyman.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. We will go into closed session at 9:22.